Can I talk over this thing right now? We got 10 seconds. Can I talk over this thing? I hear the music. What's going on? I hear the music. What
All
up?
right.
Everybody?
Welcome to another episode of The Couch Show.
I'm excited about this show.
Welcome
She
to the
actually saw it.
channel.
She saw it, everybody. She saw it. She watched it.
I did. I binge watched the entire season, and let me tell you, it was well worth it.
It was, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like there was times where I was like, I jumped out of my seat and like I finished the episode standing up. We'll get into that.
And you're like, what? You were like, what?
Yeah, definitely.
Yo, hopefully Drunk is tuning in because he was like, he wanted to get in on Tuesday. He was like disappointed. He was like, we're talking about She-Hulk. She-Hulk.
Yep, an epic season for the first season of House of Dragon.
You know what though? I'm gonna throw some kudos on you. Like your dedication to this channel lets you watch She-Hulk.
Yes, it did.
Half of it. We'll say half of it. Because you didn't have to go watch that crappy show.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go watch it. You went back.
In my mind, I was like, oh, I need to watch a show. What show am I gonna watch? Oh yeah, She-Hulk. That's all you've been talking about for weeks. You've been talking about She-Hulk for weeks.
Cause we have momentum going into the House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon, aka Hot D. You could say Hot D though. But yo, all right. So you saw it's 10 episodes, right? 10 episodes. Let's before we dive into it though, did you Game of Thrones? It's what, eight seasons? It was 8 seasons, right?
Yeah.
What would you give Game of Thrones?
On a what? On what kind of scale are we talking here? I think
from
Game
1.
Go ahead.
Let me see. Most scales are from 1 to 1,000. Let's go. What would you give it?
From 1 to 1,000? What the hell is that? You know what?
Right, What do you want? Like easy scale, 1 to 10.
Game of Thrones, I think, was also a good watch. You know, it's something that I'm glad I watched. With that, it was more about the fandom. The first few seasons, I was watching it together when it was airing. So you know, being in the office, you'd get to work, everybody would be like, "Oh, you know, like, did you guys see the episode?" kind of thing. So I think just for the fandom of it, I'm going to give it. I don't know. I don't rate shit. Maybe like a 7.
That's where I was going. Perfect.
Like a 7.
I was going to say a 7 too.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed. I was disappointed with the direction that the show went. Yeah.
Right. And I honestly, I love that show. And I wanted it to be a 10. Like it had the making to be a 10. At least the first 6 seasons. That it could have, if they would have just nailed that ending, it would have been one of the most epic TV shows on the planet, right? But do I recommend it? I still recommend it. I'm like, yeah, go. There's nothing else good to watch right now. Why not go watch some Game of Thrones, right? The GOT. Go get GOT, right? So it's like I agree with a 7. But do you remember the fandom that last season though? Like the hype leading up to that season? Because remember, HBO loves to do this thing where they take 2 years off, right?
Right.
So the leading up to that, man, I remember if there was a day where I couldn't watch that episode, either I would stay up late until it broke, the other ways of watching from HBO, when it broke out that way, or I would wake up in the morning and on my way to work, you know how they say don't watch something while you're driving? Yeah, I'd be that guy. I'd be that guy watching something while driving. Because I would hate it. I hated when I would go into work and the next day people would be talking about things.
Spoilers.
And they're mad loud. Yeah, they're mad loud. I hate spoilers. It ruins the show for me.
Yeah, my office, they would even say it out loud. They'd be like, listen, I don't care if you didn't see the show. I need to talk about this.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll be so freaking loud talking about it. I'm not even in the conversation. I'm just overhearing it because they're talking mad loud. And I'm like,
Right.
damn it, who died? What? It was like that. It was for that. It was for Game of Thrones and Walking Dead when they would do that shit. I would be so mad,
Mhm.
bro. I'd be so mad.
So both of those I started watching, and then a few seasons in, like, life just got in the way. I stopped watching. So the last few seasons, especially season finales, I was not watching them as they were coming out. I actually went back a few years later and just binge watched through, like, from season 1 straight through.
Mm.
So with Game of Thrones, I heard so many of the spoilers, but it didn't matter at that point. I didn't remember many of the characters' names. I just remembered, like, everyone was so disappointed with the direction the show went. So when I
Yeah,
was binging it and I got to those, seasons like 7, 8, I was like, wow, I understand why people were so
it
upset.
was it was bad. It
Yeah.
was bad. But you know what? If HBO and the production company, if they keep going the direction that they went with House of the Dragon,
Mhm.
I'm psyched because there's rumors that they're looking to do a sequel series based on Jon Snow, right?
Okay.
So I'm all for it. If one, those two knuckleheads that were the showrunners or the writers or whatever, they're not attached to it. Two, if the creator of Game of Thrones, the writer, the actual guy who wrote the books, he's still attached to it. And three, if they actually keep this like production level up, like if you actually put some good money to it, and actually, you know what, money is not really like money doesn't really have an impact on shows, as we could see with Ring of Power, right? That's like $1 billion show, and it's garbage, right? Which I just heard today. I just heard that they're firing. They're looking. The rumor is that they're looking to fire the showrunners, all the writers. Like they're just cleaning house because Amazon is disappointed with like you spent $1 billion on a show and people are
Mhm.
shitting on it, so they're like, yo, let's clean house. Let's get rid
Right.
of it. Let's do it. Let's do a do over. So maybe they'll soft reboot it and maybe they'll do something for the fans. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll listen to the fans, but I don't know. I'm so sick and tired of Hollywood not listening to the fans. But listen, HBO heard. HBO was listening. They were like, damn, we had the biggest show on the planet and we dropped the ball with the season finale. Let's redo it. Let's clean our image. And they did, man. What they
He
did with the
sure
House of
did.
Dragons. Man, they
And
did.
honestly, I love the way they're incorporating the dragons in House of the
Mm-hmm.
Dragon.
Right
It
off the rip,
should
right?
be. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
right off the
you
rip.
see it episode after episode when they bring those dragons in, they just seem so realistic,
And
like
they're
they're
not just
giving us those shots that were like, whoa.
Yeah, and they're not just like a prop either. Like they all have like their own personality.
Hmm.
We'll talk about it later with like later on in the season, like how they just like they're coming to life. They're having character too. Like the dragons are actually having character development. That's crazy.
Hey Fuzz, thanks for popping into the stream. Shout out to Ma. She's sitting outside in the cold. Oh my goodness. And it's getting chilly
No,
out
it's
there now.
beautiful
The sun's
outside.
going
It's
down.
beautiful outside.
Have you been out since
It's
the sun started going down? Because temperature's dropping.
listen. It's what they call sweater weather, right? So she's out there. She's nice and warm. She's drinking cocoa. See, I'm drinking my tea. You know what? Like I said, I love the fall because it's like this is the time where we do like the hot chocolate. We'll do the hot apple cider, maybe spike it a little bit, right? And it's just, oh man, I love it. I love the like you just go out at night and there's always like some kind of event. Like the other night, I went with the kids
Mhm.
and we it was what Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night we went out and they had music playing. They were doing bonfires. The kids were making s'mores and shit. So it's like I love the fall. I love the fall.
Mhm.
All right. So, oh yeah, I started watching this show. So, Lynn is starting to come over to the pop culture. Even she saw She-Hulk. She was like, yeah, I gotta watch it for the show. Maybe she'll watch Peripheral. Maybe we can start, maybe doing week to week. I started watching the first 2 episodes. I think there's another episode coming out either tonight. Amazon's weird because I think if it's supposed to come out Friday, it shows up like 9 o'clock tonight
Mhm.
on Thursdays. Like I remember doing that. That's what happened with The Boys. Have you watched that show, The Boys?
No.
Oh, that show. That's like the best show that Amazon has right now. Is The Boys.
Okay.
But that show that Fuzz just
No clue.
well the Peripheral, right? That show. Of course, I'm butchering the word. Whatever. Um, that show, it's dope because the premise is that it's supposed to be like this advanced like virtual reality,
Mhm.
and like these they're not kids, but they're like these young people. It's like a young brother and young sister. They got picked to try out and demo this like advanced virtual reality, and it's all like super realistic. But then like it dives into more, like the story develops like within the first two episodes. Like it's much more than just VR,
Mhm.
and there's like a mission that they got to do and stuff like that. So it's actually pretty it's actually a good show. It's actually a good show. I like the direction how it's already started with the first two episodes. Buzz said the boys is too cruel and lewd for Lynn. I don't think so. Lynn can hang. Lynn can hang. Listen, you gotta understand. Lynn has a really extreme ghetto side. For the record, she's listen.
Wow.
If anybody's gonna be more conservative and more reserved, is this guy right here. Is this guy right here.
Okay. Okay. With your military background, okay.
Yeah, that is true. But still, like, there's some things that I'm like, listen, I'm the shy guy when it comes to certain things. Like, you're the one that I'm like, really? You're okay talking about things like that? Just like blunt and stuff? Like, okay.
Okay.
All right, so listen, we got 2 hours. We're going to talk about House of the Dragon. That's it. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this since Saturday. I was in aching. I was like, come on. It's been a whole week.
They dropped the ball. Tuesday came and went. We had to reschedule this one.
Yeah, I think you did that on purpose. You're like, I'm finally going to pull one on Ray. Because you were like, yo, She-Hulk. That's what we're going to talk about. I'm like, oh, man. That hurts. Why?
Wow. All right. So obviously for copyright reasons, we're not gonna show you guys everything, but we had to pull some stuff up for you.
Well, listen. We the season's over, right?
Mhm.
We're wrapping it up, so we're just gonna go. I would say let's just go through like the name of the episode, right? The episodes are more fresh in your mind as far as like the very first episodes. I know I just rewatch episode one, but as far as like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, shit, even 7, like those I can't even remember them. Like I remember like just a little bit of it. 8 is the standout. 9 was like and then like 10 was like oh shit, I want
I don't
more.
know. 9 was freaking awesome for me. I don't know. Like 9 was just
9 was
something
awesome
special.
for you.
Yes, yes, it was.
So are we gonna go? All right, so you can't leave me hanging there. Why was that? Why was 9 awesome for you?
I just think the way that I don't know, there was just something that had me like sitting at the edge of my seat the whole episode. There's a race to the throne. We see that
Yeah,
the king passes, and then there's a race to see like who's gonna make what move, and
yeah, things were setting up, and you're like, oh shit.
yeah, and then you have like this huge scene where they're like crowning him
Oh wait,
king.
hold up. Spoiler alerts, by the way. This whole 2 hours is gonna be a massive spoiler alert. Spoiler alerts. Last chance, spoiler alerts. Season's out. Link gave you an extra chance by talking about She-Hulk on Tuesday. Spoiler alerts. We're going in. Go ahead, Lynn. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like we're welcoming in our new king, and there's a little hesitation from the crowd, and then they kind of like accept him. They're cheering him on, and then out of nowhere, the unimaginable happens. So I just think, yeah, that whole episode, that's definitely the one that I stood up at, and I stayed standing for the remainder of the episode. We'll get more into it. Let's go back. Let's start from the beginning. You're starting at the end.
All right. The show's so damn dumb. Of course, I want to get into it. I'm like, hold on. All right, so episode 1.
Yeah, so episode 1. It's the heirs of the dragon. All right, and we start with that prologue where we're seeing the old king when he has the council swear in who his heir is going to be, and he chooses what the hell is the king's name? King Viserys?
Viserys. Yeah, Viserys.
Yeah.
I gotta pull up the cast because I'm gonna butcher all their names too. So this is where we see first Paddy Considine, that's the actor, and he's Viserys, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like the cousin, right? He's not, because they were like, oh, we can't have a woman as a queen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we had what's her name, Rainey as the her nickname is the queen that never was, right?
Right.
Because they're like, oh, we can't have a woman, right?
Right. And everyone feels like,
So
hey, she should have been the queen, but she couldn't
right,
be. She was a woman.
which we see that play later on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at some point within the season, she kind of acknowledges, like when he goes through all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? When Viserys goes through all this stuff, like I think at one point she acknowledges, like, "Yo, I'm glad I'm not the queen. Like, I'm glad you're the king. Like, you're the one dealing with this shit."
Right.
And like, mad props. Listen, this like Patty Considine, mad props to him as an actor. Like, I really want him to win the Emmy for the show. Like, he deserves it. Because from the very first episode, like when I saw him, after I saw the season and I went back to that first episode, man, you just see like the whole like degradation of him throughout the whole like series, right? The whole episode, the whole season, right? The whole season. And just with this very first episode, when we see him go through, he loves his wife, he loves his family, right? He loves his brother, he loves his daughter. He's like a family man that's been put into this role, and he's like, I really don't want to be king, but I have to do it, right? I have to do my duty. Like he has a really big call to duty, right? And also like a call to like I said, loyalty, family, right? We see in the very first episode, that whole scene with the wife, and the baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, oh, she's having another baby. They didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, right? She was having complications, and the maester was like, hey, we can only save one, right? And so we get to see her, and even the very beginning, you could tell like he loves his wife, right? He loves his daughter, and he loves Damon to a certain extent, right? He even promoted Damon as what did he promote him as?
He was running the guard for a while.
Yeah, he was running the guard and he was going
Mm-hmm.
ape shit, going crazy in town and stuff. And like he had his like dudes that were like a bunch of mercenaries and all that stuff. And he was like Damon to me in the very first episode, like I saw it, he was just like just a punk kid, right? He was like 20 years old and he's just a punk. But you could kind of see like he kind of like his progression throughout the season. Like he got better. Like he had like they all have character development, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But man, like just the tone, like in that first episode, it just started setting like the stuff. Like even when, okay, I'm gonna skip forward unless you have anything else you want to talk about since that first episode.
Let's stay with the first episode. Don't.
No,
skip
I'm still in the first episode. I'm gonna skip to like towards the end because the end is where everything really kicks in. So we see like the tension start growing, and we see like the hand, the hand, which is what's his name, Hightower, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see also Otto Hightower, and we also see Strong, the other guy who's Strong, right? The father. And so they're all talking, but you could see like the game is in play.
Mm-hmm.
The game is in play already from the very first episode, right? The game is in play, mm-hmm. And it's like, sir, you gotta decide who your heir is gonna be. Anything can happen to you. Who's gonna be your heir? And of course, they all have their names that they want to say, right? And he definitely doesn't want to go with Damon, right? Because he's like Damon's just gonna be like they didn't even mention he's gonna be like the next so and so, right? He's just gonna be an awful king. He's gonna go like murdering and butchering. Like he's not about the people, right? He's just gonna be just awful. Mm-hmm. But when that scene happened when he lost his wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, because he was like, I choose the baby. So they, they gave her like a almost like a primitive, archaic like C-section, right?
Yeah.
Where they cut the baby out and she died. And that whole scene, like I felt that. Like he was like, yes. I love you, but and he's like, and you could see like after that killed him. That was like that destroyed him, right?
Yes.
But what did Hightower do?
Hightower to his daughter, hey, how about you go check on the king? How about you go that night?
Oh, wear one of your mom's outfit, by the way.
What? Yeah, he definitely saw that opening and he took it.
Yeah.
So
So the
I
game's in
like stopped
play.
flipping through. I stopped flipping through the scenes because I want to speak about this scene here. And this is early in the episode. This is when we see his wife. She's before labor starts, I believe, and she's speaking with Rhaenyra, with the princess. And at that point, the princess is kind of facing the fact that as a mother, the one who's going to be giving birth, like she's going to be stuck in that role of just producing heirs. So I think this plays a really
Yeah,
big. This
that's
plays a
you know
really
what
big.
that's that HBO feminism crap though, and it's scattered around. It's salted.
It's
It's
my
like a
turn,
little
guys.
it's like a little salt bay along the whole series. But I could deal with it because it's such a good show and it's written really well. But that's that same crap that's in She-Hulk though.
You
So
know what
it's
though?
like
I disagree. I think the reason why this is such an important conversation is because when we see towards the end of the season, when
okay.
shit breaks loose and she goes into labor,
Uh-huh.
she's sitting there facing, something that she's been waiting for her entire life, and she feels so trapped because she is trying to give birth to an heir, and that's exactly where she lost her mother. So I think that's really important scene early
That
on.
you know what that I will give that to you because as a child because I think Rhaenyra at this age she's like what 12, 13,
12-ish
right?
maybe.
12ish, right? So
10.
I know the actors are older, so she looks a lot older, but I think that's what we're trying to convey, especially when they do all the time jumps and all that later on down, and they're trying to convey that she was very young at this age. So this is a traumatic event that happened to her. Like she lost her mother because they chose to get the child to be the heir, right? And mind you, she was always in the shadow as a child. She's always in the shadow of her potential brother who's not even there yet, right? Not born, not even conceived. Like her whole life, she's been in the shadow of a brother because that's the male who's supposed to take over, the heir to the throne, right? So she has like I don't know if you want to call it maybe contention or just jealousy, right? Of her brother, right? Her younger brother, really. Until the very end of the show, or not the end, yeah, the end of the first episode, where her father's like, "Yo, this is the heir."
Yeah.
I remember, listen, at that very if you guys saw the whole season, go back to that very first episode and watch. Remember, look at everybody at the end who pled allegiance, right? They were like, "I bend the knee," right? And the houses were all there. They were like, I this is who you're nominating. I pledge my loyalty. I pledge my loyalty. I pledge my loyalty, right? So it actually comes full circle when we get back to that last episode. So what else you got with episode 1? Anything else you want to talk about?
Probably. Ew, that's a gross scene.
Yeah, do you have a theory as far as what was killing the king?
I think he died from one of the diseases we spoke. Oh no, I don't even think that's what it was. Because what was killing the king wasn't contagious.
No. So that's what the rumor was.
I think it was what they were talking about in Game of Thrones, but
right,
when
right.
the
That's
whole
what the
body
rumor
became
was. Yeah,
scaly, but that was contagious.
Right, and this was more like he was just getting wounds that weren't healing.
Mm-hmm.
And like the wounds were just getting bigger and bigger to the point where when
he
ate up
was
his whole face and
decaying.
shit.
His body was decaying.
But nobody ever knows really what it was. I'm like I'm curious to. That's why I asked because I don't know. I don't know what was killing him. I was just
and
like,
it was definitely
this is
a
crazy.
slow progression. It was happening over years, where we were seeing him. We were seeing him slowly dying.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so do you have any? All right, so do you want to go into episode 2? All right, so the first few episodes, like I said, I only rewatched episode 1. I'm gonna let you drive the narrative for the next like few episodes until we get to the end, and then I'm gonna be like, yes, this is where I remember it.
Oh, the only thing we really didn't talk about from this first episode is the fact that the king has this grand it's not a festival, it's a tournament for
Yes.
the arrival of his son. So
Yes, yes,
before
yes,
he
yes.
loses his wife and child, he's hosting this tournament, and I think this is when we first see Sir Christopher,
Yes.
and he
Cole.
becomes somebody pivotal, in this whole
Yes,
thing.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
let's
yes.
bring that back real quick.
Mind you, in this show, I'm guessing he's supposed to be a young guy too. Once again, these actors are all look old, but I'm guessing that in the books he's probably was supposed to be written to be like around their age too, like 15 or something, maybe a little bit older, right? So we said the princess and Allison, her friend, right? Oh,
Mhm.
that's another thing. That's another thing that's pivotal. The first few episodes set up the relationship between Rhaenyra and Allison
Yes.
and how they were childhood friends. So
Hmm.
let's remember that because they were like childhood friends, and then like the way that shit ended, I was like, oh man.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, but I think Cole is probably like I think he was written to be just like a few years older than they are. So we said that she was probably like 12 or 13 or something. He's probably
Mhm.
like 15 or 16.
Right.
Oh man, this show's awesome. I'm like trying to move on to the good parts. I'm like, I understand the story set up in the first few episodes, but I'm like, yo, let's get to the end. Let's get to the meaty stuff.
All right. So I'm just getting this ready here.
So let me ask you this, and I'm gonna keep asking you. So episode 1, did that hook you to the show?
When I saw episode 1, I felt, because I saw it a few weeks ago and I had told you about it. I was like, oh, like what? It built that intrigue. It made me want
Mm-hmm.
to watch the show. I was quickly pulled into Game of Thrones because of all the different houses and learning where they stand and the game that they play. So I
Right.
think going into House of the Dragon, I already had that intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say I was like fully vested. At one point, was I fully vested? I'm gonna say it when it comes up. While we're talking about it, I'm gonna say this is at the point where I was fully
Okay.
vested.
All right.
Um,
So
but no,
to be
after episode 1, I was kind of bummed that I wasn't gonna watch the rest of the season because episode 1 was free, and I was like, I didn't really put a priority on it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So no, 1 was not the one that really had me.
Yeah, so the reason why I went back and rewatched episode 1 was because I was kind of like not really caught into episode 1. I saw it, but it was kind of like it was on in the background kind of thing, and it was like I was doing other things. I wasn't really focused on it, and the reason why I wasn't focused on it was because I was still bitter about how season 8 ended.
Mhm.
So I was like, this show's gonna be crap, and so I was just watching it just to say, yep, I'm right. The show was gonna be crap, right?
Okay.
So episode 1 did not hook me. To be honest with you, I didn't remember what episode 1 was all about until I
Mhm.
rewatched it like 2 days ago. All right, so we're going into
All
episode
right.
2 now.
So episode 2, the Rogue Prince. This is when Rhaenyra oversteps at the small council. Viserys is urged to secure the line of succession through marriage, and Daemon announces his intentions.
Mm.
So
So is this where Damon is in the Dragon's Keep or what's it called? The
at
Dragon
Dragonstone.
Dragonstone. So this is where
Yes.
he goes back to Dragonstone.
Hmm.
Okay. So is this the
He
scene
goes back to
where?
Dragonstone. He seals the egg.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right for his brother.
Hmm.
And then that's where is that the scene where Rhaenyra goes, flies on the dragon, and then she comes down and then she walks over.
Yes. And what's kind of cool is that that's her first opportunity really to show that she is prepared to take action when she's in power. Like it was against her dad's wishes. She saw
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity to, prevent bloodshed, and she jumped on her dragon and she went and she got the egg bag.
I
It was her
agree
first
with
show of
you,
power.
but in the same sense, episode 1 and this
Mhm.
episode, I think they were all building on the fact that there was something there between them two,
Mhm.
between Damon and
And his
Rhaenyra.
niece. Yes.
Right, because I did once again, like I like they're all the actors are all older and all that. But what
Mhm.
I got from that very first episode is that Damon is probably like 18 or 20. Right? He's
Mhm.
like 20 years old. He's like just a hot-headed, you know, young adult that's just like nobody can tell me anything. I should be king, blah blah blah, right?
Mhm.
All this stuff. And so but remember that very first episode, he came and he gave that the
The
necklace that he got.
necklace, yes, that had the Valyrian seal.
Right, right. And
Yes. Now
so
they both
there's
own a piece of history.
right. So there was something there from the very jump that there was something in the air, if you want to say,
Mhm.
right? So the fact that she got on her dragon and went over there, I agree with you. It did show a level of like diplomacy from her,
Mhm.
which we see it later, in the season. But I think I would say that she knew Damon wasn't going to do anything.
Right.
She knew that Damon has a soft spot for her.
Right. And that's the thing. She knew Damon wasn't going to do anything to her.
Right.
Versus, was Damon, hot-headed side going to take over? And, was he going to kill somebody? Was he going to cause bloodshed? With the
Mm-hmm.
hand being the one going over to, retrieve the dragon egg.
Right, right, right.
Mm-hmm. And early on in the episode, it showed Rhaenyra in, we finished episode 1, and she's now been declared, the heir. And
Mm-hmm.
then we start the next episode, and she's still pouring, the wine, and she's still in that same role. Nothing has
The
changed.
cupbearer.
And
Yeah, because technically she's still a kid. So they
yes,
named her the
exactly.
heir, but they didn't think this was gonna happen until like another 20, 30 years from now. Which
Exactly. And nothing
that's how it
changed
panned out
for her
anyway.
in the way that, she felt as though she could say something in response to, what the men were saying around the table, and she got kicked out of the room. They were
Yeah.
kind of just like, oh, you know what, your services could be better used elsewhere.
I think that, but I think they would have done that with any kind of kid. Any kid that was at that table, they would have been like, "All right, kid, let the adults talk, right?"
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we've seen in Game of Thrones where the kids, they're running shit. Like
That's true.
remember in Game of Thrones, that one princess from the north that she came in and she stole the scene. Like everybody was like, "Oh my god, she's so dumb. She's like 8 years old and she's so
Yes.
badass."
Yes. Yep.
So I mean, that's the time, bro. So I don't know why. To me, I think. So when I see that, right? Once again, I feel like her getting kicked out. That was just written because that was the whole like HBO stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, like I said, it's season along in the season, and we'll talk about it because I think episode 9 is where it's the biggest. Like, why did they do that? But
Mm-hmm.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. I'm gonna call it out, but like I said, it's tolerable. It's tolerable. The whole HBO feminism crap.
What else do we see? This episode we see when the princess, the queen that never was, speaks to Princess Rhaenyra and basically tells her like, hey, the council had a chance to, let a woman sit on the throne, and they didn't.
Yes,
It's not gonna be any different with you. Your dad's gonna pass, and they're gonna choose somebody
they're
else.
gonna turn on you. Yup.
Yeah.
And we see that in episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
we quickly see that because and we'll talk about that as far as like how they had how they set everything up, but it's crazy. All
At
right,
the end of
so
the episode too, the king announces who he's marrying.
oh, okay, all right, so he is this a scene where we saw him and they were trying to have him marry that 10-year-old girl.
It's a little bit after that. So that is like the one that's proposed to him. They're like, listen, like she's pure Valerian blood. It's gonna strengthen the house. It's gonna strengthen the house of the dragon, and um, he kind of chooses on his own. Like, hey, like this isn't the future.
Right, which that was to me was like the only time that I had. I mean, there was other things too, but this is like the glaring one where he kind of contradicts his like we have to do it because it's our duty. So he's constantly telling Rhaenyra, right, like you have to do it because it's your duty. It's your duty. It's your duty. And so this would have been like the perfect match for him to like, unite these two houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do it for duty. But once again, what he does, he goes against all that. He's like, oh, it's for love, right?
Right.
So like that's the one thing I was like, come on, why are you doing that? You keep saying duty, duty, and you contradict yourself.
Yeah, I can't pull it up. I'm
That's all right.
trying. I'm
Well,
trying.
listen, we got 10 episodes to get through, so I'm just like, let's keep. Listen, I'm trying to move forward through the boring shit. So I want to get into the action of it, man. I'm like, yo, I'm been excited. That episode 10, oh my god, and 8 too. 8 and 10 were good. 8 and 10 were good.
All right, so episode 3, second of his name. So some time has passed. There's another one of those episodes where we're trying to catch up and see kind of what's going on here. So Damon and the sea snake battle at the crab. They battle the crab feeder.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of when we see that they're not doing so well. The realm celebrates Aegon's second name day. So the king now has a son, and
It was 2.
we see. Well, no, she's pregnant with the other child in this one.
No, because you said Aegon's
Allison.
second name day, so that's
So it's his second birthday.
Yes.
And we see that the queen is pregnant.
Yes, with another one.
Right. Rhaenyra faces the prospect of
Aemon.
marriage.
She's pregnant with Aemon, right?
Mm-hmm. Let me see.
Oh, let me ask you this, Lynn. How did you feel about the whole time jumps? Were they a little jarring? Like everybody's complaining online that it was like it was hard to follow along.
I don't think that it was hard to follow along. You just had to pay attention, or you were gonna miss stuff.
But they mentioned it too. They were like, "Oh, it's been like right now where I just said, the second, his second name day, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, he's 2 years old, so it's been 2 years or whatever.
Right.
It's been
not only it's been 2 years, it's been at least 3 years because now he's married. She's had the pregnancy, and this is the child's second birthday. So it's been about 3 years.
Right. So it was a 3-year time jump, which you could have followed along if you. The story tells you that. I know there was one point where they were like, "I haven't seen my husband in like 6 years." So it's like right when she said that, I was like, "Okay, it's a 6-year time jump."
It's been a few years, yes.
Right. So it's like, I don't know. People online, man, they complain about that. I'm like, are you paying attention?
I think the show did a good job keeping us informed. Okay. They were making sure that the characters were saying certain things, and like even when the queen enters the wedding, a few episodes after this, and she's wearing the green. Like they had the symbolism of her wearing the green and showing that she's a high tower, but they also had the creepy dude say something out loud to give us that hint, like, hey, follow along. So I think that the directors did a good job of keeping us up with the changes they were making. It was a lot of changes, but I think altogether it was a smooth transition.
All right. So anything that stuck out, and so we're in episode 3 now?
Yeah, episode 3.
All right. So what stuck out in episode 3? Remind me. Refresh my memory.
Let's see. There's this dude. The crab feeder. There's a dragon. These dragons were so badass, man. Look at them.
Is this where Viserion was like, he sent a letter to Daemon, was like, hey, I don't want you to lose this war, so I'm going to send you the men that you need to win it. And Daemon was like, fuck that, I'm going on my own.
Yes. Yeah, that's the end of the episode where Daemon, he goes in and he's ready to die. He's prepared to die for his cause, and he almost does. We see that, he falls, but the reinforcements do get there in time, and they are able to win that battle.
Right.
But yes, this is that episode.
Yeah, the crab feeders. Well, feed you to the crabs. So like these first 3 episodes, I mean, I was kind of engaged. Like I was starting to come around, but I was still like, kind of. So episode 4 is where he walks in and he gives him the crown, right?
I don't know, Ray. We're not on episode 4 yet.
I'll try to move it along.
No. All right, what else happens here? So she runs off. Princess Rhaenyra ends up running off, and we see Sir Kristen, chase off
Cole.
after her. This is the scene where she kind of like loses her shit when that boar attacks.
Yeah. She kills the boar and then she brings it back, right?
Yeah. She brings it back. She's all, covered in blood. This kind of shows us the progression of their relationship. With her and her sworn guard.
Yeah. Laying the foundations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some foreshadowing happened in this episode too. And like it's been behind the scenes because and this is once again, I wasn't paying attention to these early shows, but I got it in the recap because I was like, wait a minute. When they did that one big massive time jump and she had her first kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were calling them strong, and I was like, wait, who the hell's strong? So I went and I saw online there was the recaps where they were like not like the advisor who was the father, the house, the leader of House Strong, but his son, he was around behind the scenes. Like he was here when she was bringing him, bringing the boar back to town. He was one of the ones that was like, oh shit. He was like there. So he's been present behind the scenes. They were kind of laying that down, and I was like not really picking up on that one.
I missed that too. Yeah. I definitely missed that. There was some symbolism. I stopped here on this scene. So this is when the king sees the actual stag that they caught. Now, earlier in the episode, they had told him, or maybe this is the time when they tell him, like, hey, we've spotted the stag. It seems to be a white stag.
Mm-hmm.
Now, white stags are supposed to be symbolic, and this was a king who was really into symbolism. Like, he based his whole reign on the fact that his house could not fall, and he had this whole prophecy of, the dance of fire and ice.
Yes, he kept talking about that damn prophecy all over again.
So for him in this episode, he's really feeling like, shit, like, did I do the right thing by naming my daughter as my heir? Or, was I supposed to wait for my son? So with the white stag, that symbolism was also special for him because it was more of an indication that shit, he did mess up.
No, honestly, I agree with you, but I still think that at the end, he does believe in the whole symbolism and all the tales and all that stuff. But in the end, he's still about loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still going to be loyal to Rhaenyra. He's like, look, I promised you this, and you're gonna have it. So like he's still, he's still a family man at the end of the day. Like you gotta respect this guy. He's a family man at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, at the end of the episode, it turns out that it's not a white stag. It ends up being a brown stag that they find. And I think when they show us that Rhaenyra spots the white stag, that's kind of letting us know, the viewer, like, hey, she is the one who has the good omen. She is the one who's supposed to be the queen, the heir.
You know what? This scene though, like when he actually goes to go kill the stag and he messes up, and they're like, you got to do it here, you got to do it here. I feel like that scene was in place to show how like the people around him sees him as like a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Where and then I started feeling that too. Like I was like, oh, this guy, he just put into this role, and it wasn't until later on in the season where I started like actually respecting him, and I see like once he's gone, I see like, oh my god, it's gonna be like he's like the last bit of like the last like wall before like the downfall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's been upholding peace, and I think that was even the name. Like they gave him King Viserion the Peaceful, right, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then this is also the episode when we have like an awesome fight scene that we were talking about when Daemon goes into wait, is this one? Episode 3, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious because all the damn arrows were missing him as he's like heroically like running through this. I'm like, really? Not one of the archers is like
That's
landing their arrows? Are you serious?
that's called armor. That's called plot armor there,
Plot
Lynn.
armor. He
You
was
know that he
not
can't
going
gonna
down.
die. He's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna die. It's plot armor.
Look at him. Look at him evading those arrows. I think it was really awesome when he came out of the caves and he was dragging this dude with like his guts hanging behind him. I was like, oh man, that's really setting the tone for how I guess violent of a character they're creating here.
Damon, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but Damon, he also knows how to play the game, and he said that from episode 1. Because when episode 1, when they were talking about the succession as far as who's gonna be the king and all of that, Damon was behind the scenes listening, right? And he like Damon loves his brother, and I got that from the show. Like he definitely loves his brother.
Mm-hmm.
He just has a distaste for his brother because he doesn't know how to play the game, and that's
Right.
the Game of Thrones, right? Like he has a distaste for him, and he even tells him in the first episode, he's like, why haven't you promoted me your hand? And he was like, why? I have somebody who's loyal to me. And he's like, I'm your brother.
Right.
You don't know how to play the game. I know how to play the game. And sure enough, he trusted Hightower, and look what Hightower did, right?
Yeah.
So Damon's right in that sense. So like, I do see like Damon has that brutal carnage in him, but he's smart. He knows how to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna see that. I think we're gonna see that in season 2. I think we're gonna see when they dive in, they're gonna go in hard as far as like, setting him up as far as like he knows how to play the game. And we saw that a glimpse of that in episode 10 when we get there. All right, we gotta move this along. I want to get to the good stuff. Come on, episode 5, right? We're on episode 5.
What? We're just gonna skip over episode 4?
Unless you got something good on it. Come on, this is the
Listen,
first
damn it!
episode.
I took notes on every episode. I am prepared. Okay.
All right, go through the cliff notes. Let's go.
All right,
Let's
so
go.
episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. After Rhaenyra cuts short her tour of Westeros, Daemon introduces the princess to the Street of Silk after dark.
Oh, this is that weird episode.
Yes. So,
The incest episode.
yeah, so Daemon comes back, from war, and but he comes back and his intentions are focused on the daughter. And he takes her out into his niece out into the streets after hours, and he's showing her a good time and showing her the show and showing her around to the people, and then we see him take her into the brothel.
Yep.
And there's like this whole scene where she's looking around and she's kind of just symbolically losing her innocence, being exposed to a world that the princess has not been exposed to.
Right.
And then we get to the scene where her uncle is going to take her virginity, and then it stops. And I don't know really what happens there, but
I'll tell you what happened. He wanted that, but this was my interpretation. He remembered the child that was still in her, like the child that he always loved. Like Damon has a soft spot for Rhaenyra. He loves his brother. He loves his niece, right? He sees her and he's like, and remember, when we think about incest and all this is bad, that doesn't exist in this world, right?
Right.
So let's take that out of the picture. I think what he saw was he didn't want to corrupt her at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
However, she was hot and heavy and ready to go.
She was about it. She was like, well, this is happening.
That's why with the very next scene.
Mm-hmm. So then the very next scene is that she goes back, to her keep.
Mm-hmm.
And she I would say seduces Sir Kristen.
Seduces or uses? Because at that point, could he really say no to the queen?
Right. He does have his oath, and there is some hesitation. But he definitely says fuck it and goes for it.
Right. This episode was a weird episode because everybody's like, "What the hell? Like, what the hell?" And I'm like,
then there's what's going on behind the scenes between this, because then the very next morning, Otto gets this word that, oh, the princess was out the night before. She was with her uncle.
mm-hmm.
And the queen, I mean the princess, she's been, spoiled. She's no longer,
Yep.
like able to be married off and stuff. So we see a couple things going on. We see the hand having to take this news to the king, which at the end
Well,
of the
first
day,
off, backstep. We see the hand having his like spider web and connection all around.
yeah.
So this guy, the years that he's been embedded as the hand, you could see that he's been implanting his little spies and making his moves. Like this guy thinks he's the king.
Mm-hmm.
He's always thought that way. To the point where there was that one episode symbolically where he was sitting on the throne, right?
Right.
Like sitting on the throne like he's the fucking king.
So he comes into the king's chambers and he tells the king, like, hey, like, this is what I heard about your daughter last night. And the king, confronts him about, like, what do you mean? You're having my daughter followed? Like, are you really that thirsty for your grandson to be on the throne that you're following my daughter? And then we see the king, like, handle it on his own. He goes to Damon, he confronts him, and he basically tells him, like, dude, like, are you that?
Let me pause real quick because I gotta address my mother's comment. So mom said, guys, are you not reading people's comments? One, there hasn't been any comments. Has there been any comments as we've been talking?
I haven't received any, no.
Okay. And two, if we're in the middle of the discussion, we can't go through the comments, especially when at some point in the show the comments are gonna go crazy. We gotta stay focused. Like you threw the whole conversation off, Ma.
Did she or did you for having to bring it up?
Oh, I wanted to acknowledge it. It's my mother, so I have to acknowledge it, right? She doesn't understand how YouTube works. I'm just, I gotta explain things sometimes. All right, so what were you saying, Lynn? Go ahead, keep going.
I don't even remember. But so the other thing that comes from,
you landed on this point, and the one thing is like I felt so bad for Viserys. He just wanted to play with his model Westeros. Like he was always on that thing, building it, working on it. He just wanted to be left alone and let me finish it. Let me like I hope that we get like a cutback scene or a flashback or something like that where he's just actually happy just playing with the damn thing.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Let me just finish my cough drop here. I'm being on rude. All right. So the other kind of dynamic we have going on here is Allison. She's feeling betrayed because why the hell is she feeling betrayed? Oh, because she hears from her father that the princess has done this unthinkable thing. So she goes to the princess and is like, hey, like we're childhood friends. Like what the hell is going on? And Rhaenyra tells her, I didn't sleep with my cousin, and she didn't lie.
Yeah, but she didn't tell her that she also
withholds. Yeah, she also withholds the truth that she did. She was soiled. She was soiled at that time. Yeah. So, we see the kind of like the breaking up of that friendship during this series because at the end when Allison finds out that there was a tea brought to her the same night that her father was sent away. Now she's like, well, shit, she lied to me.
Yeah, but she really didn't lie to her. And honestly, if they were childhood friends, I don't know. This scene was really weird the way they set it up because I was like, would that be enough to break your friendship and set that seeds of like, hostility? Like, I don't know. To me, the way they set it up, it could have been a lot better, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think it was just another something else kind of creating that divide. Because as we go throughout the series, there are more things where Allison is feeling like, oh my God, I've been so offended and how dare she kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is where we see that it's starting to create that divide.
Yeah. All
At
right.
least on
So
Allison's part. Because up to this point, she is still trying to be that childhood friend.
yeah. All right. So then this cuts into episode 5.
Hang on. Yep.
Love this show. I want to get to the good parts. I'm like trying to
So
move you along.
episode 5 is We Light the Way. Damon visits his wife in the Vale. So we're
Is this the one where he takes her out? He snuffs
yeah. Sure enough, and that's how the episode starts. Where we finally see Damon's wife that he speaks so ill about, and he just takes her out.
Do you think he meant to do that at that point, or he just like
Mm,
saw an opportunity to do it?
I think the opportunity kind of presented itself by her falling off of the horse.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely tension. So I don't know. I don't know what, his intention was. He does approach the horse and, she grabs for her bow and arrow.
Right.
And then, the horse jumps back and her neck is cracked. Now he
Right.
does go through with it. He was actually going to walk away when she was lying on the ground, and she says something to kind of, poke the dragon,
Once
and he
again,
turns around.
my interpretation of the scene, and maybe I'm giving Damon too much like benefit of doubt, but I feel like he just took her out of her misery. He was like, "Well, you broke your neck, you dumbass. You done did this to yourself. I'm gonna just take you out of your misery," while also coincidentally freeing me of being married to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I don't think his intentions were to kill her. I think he was just like there, like, "What up, wife?"
All right. Oh, so this is actually the episode when Allison hears that the tea was brought to Rhaenyra the same night that her father was sent away. So in the previous episode, she does, we see Otto being sent away.
And
And
that's
then
the first time that we see the other strong, right? The the the
yes, yeah,
weird one. The creepy one,
yeah,
yeah, the weird one. He's the one that tells her that, right?
yes, yep. And he's always in the right spot to say, just enough
Well, he
information to
just
cause
like
doubt.
what's his name in the first Game of Thrones?
Mm-hmm.
What was it Littlefinger? Middle
Yes.
finger?
No, was it
Yeah.
Littlefinger?
No, middle finger. Whoop. I mean, they just it's once again, it's like politics. It's like you get by knowing connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing certain people, getting information. Information is a currency in this world, just like it is in our world. It's like what you know and what you hold over people, and your little spies and your little secrets and all that. That's what gets you by, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, and then this is the same one where
Is this the wedding? The wedding's at the end of this one.
the wedding's at this one. Let's see if we can get there. We need to look at the legality of what we're doing.
I see other channels do it. We're not playing the audio. We're just going and finding cutscenes and all that, which I'm glad you have that because I was like, yeah, how are we gonna do the show like that? But we're not playing the audio. We're not even playing the content. We're just showing the things so we can talk about it. So I don't think we're breaking any rules.
So I mean, this is the episode where we see the wedding. But earlier in the episode, we see when Princess Rhaenyra and the prince, her betrothed, they take this walk, and she basically says like, "Hey, you like duck, I like goose. Let's have an open
Yep.
marriage."
Yep. And what she's conveying, yeah, exactly. Because
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to continue with Cole,
Right.
right? She always had a thing for Cole. Cole's had things for her, so she kind of wanted to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
Cole, he doesn't have a name. He doesn't have a family. He's not royalty, right? So she wanted to keep seeing him while married to what's his house name? Valerian, right? Valerian.
Mhm.
However, he likes dudes. And so she knew that he had, his boy toy or whatever. And so he was cool with it. He was like, oh shit. Which to me, like this happens all the time. It's politics, right? It's houses. This is how these houses come together by name only and they hold it together. We hear it all the time, like politicians who stayed married for 20 years because it's good for the image, right?
Right.
I think the Clintons were like that, where they just despise each other, but they stay together because it's good for the image. That's what they were doing. That's what they were setting up. But I think in the same in this episode, this is where um Allison, right? She wore green because she found out that Rhaenyra lied to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she took so long to get to the wedding, and she wore green, and she was like, "Yo, this shit, it's on fire now."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was kind of her stance, like her taking a stand saying, hey, like, I know what house I am actually supposed to be representing here. She's
Mm-hmm.
choosing her side. All right, so this is the prince here whose name I don't think I wrote down anywhere. I kept missing his name, but that's the prince there. And then this is, the man who he's in love with. Now,
Yes,
we also see in this scene where this man that he's in love with that he now can have on the side um interacts with
Cole.
Cole.
Yes, and actually, I remember his name because his name was Joffrey. His boy
Mhm.
toy's name is Joffrey, but I don't remember the prince's name.
So then everyone at the stage, they kind of can't see what's going on, and there's a rumble happening down in the court, and we find Joffrey dead.
Yes, because Joffrey came out and he was like, "Oh, I know your secret. You know, you can know my secret. We can play this game together." And
Mhm.
Cole wasn't having it
Right.
because Cole, at this point, I would say that Cole's kind of, and we find out about it. He was like, "You made me break my rule. Made me break my honor," and he's. I want to say he was like in love with her, and he was like, "Yo, let's run away together."
Yeah.
But she wasn't having it. She was like, "Duty, honor. I gotta marry this dude, even though I don't love him because of the name, title, whatever, right?
Hmm.
Duty and honor." And so Cole's like, "Oh, now you're about duty and honor when you made me break my duty and honor,
Hmm.
my promise, right?" So I think that's where he just lost his shit because the people around him was starting to play the game, and he's not about the game, right?
Hmm.
So later on, he becomes a part of the game.
All right, so then episode 6, we have a huge jump.
We do.
And this is when we have like the all new cast, which it kind of threw me off at the beginning too. I was like, who the hell's this old lady? And it turns out to be, Princess Rhaenyra, and she's, giving birth right at the beginning of the episode. Um, Let me see. This was The Princess and the Queen. So we're 10 years later, and Princess Rhaenyra gives birth, and then as soon as the baby's born, we have someone come in and say, "Hey, the queen
The
has,
queen wants to see the baby.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have to bring the baby to the queen right now."
Mm-hmm.
So, still in that process of delivery, Rhaenyra gathers up her strength and she walks over to where the queen is.
I forgot to say in the last episode 5. So before we lost the young cast members,
Mhm.
that whole when the whole fight broke out and everything was going crazy and like the king's guards weren't doing nothing.
Uh-huh.
The one who took the princess out, Rhaenyra out, that was strong. By the way, remember
Hmm.
when he picked her up and carried her out?
Yes.
That was him. That was strong. So,
Hmm.
like I said, they've been laying the foundation for this whole thing, this whole side thing, which she wanted to do with Cole,
Right.
but he wasn't really about it. He wasn't about it. Now in the last episode, was Cole gonna kill himself? He was gonna kill himself, right? And
Yes.
then Allison was like, "Don't do it."
Right. And then, we're
So
going to see that shift too, where he becomes kind of Allison's muse, where he just wants to like dedicate himself to like the crown or whatever.
Yeah, which I really didn't get that. Like, I don't know how you went from, well, whatever. It is what it is. I didn't, I wish they would have, like, kind of developed that a little bit better.
Well, I mean, he
Because
took
he went
out
from, like, super in love with Renera to, like, totally hating her. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
right. It's basically like she broke his heart. She didn't want to run away with him. She wanted him to be her whore.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't about that.
Oh, Strong was. Strong was all for it. He was like, yeah.
Hmm.
Not only was Strong about it, he was like, yo, she's having kids and I don't even have to do child support or anything because they're taking out somebody else's last name. uh,
I'm sorry, guys. I'm just snacking away over here. Munch, munch,
well, it's the
munch.
top of the hour, so why don't you reintroduce the show while we go into the best half of the show? You gonna do something? I'm waiting on you. What are you
Hang
doing?
on. I don't want to speak with my mouth full.
Eating
All right,
M&M's in the
so
middle of the show.
everyone new here, welcome, welcome, welcome to our channel, Sibling Rivalry. I'm Lim.
I'm
This is
Ray.
Ray. Through this channel, we aim to be givers, givers of love, good vibes, and strength through conversation. Today, we're going over
Our breakdown.
Hot D, our breakdown of Hot D. um, and we're going episode by episode. We're going into the second half of the season now. If you're new
A
to the
good half.
channel, please consider subscribing and go ahead and hit that like button because it helps us with the algorithm. Yeah, let's jump right back into it. So,
So
episode
you said
all new
the time
cast.
jump. You said the time jump was jarring for you.
It was at first because the first scene you see, this lady, this older lady. She's in the middle of giving birth. You don't know who the hell she is. But you get used to it as the episode goes on.
Did you like the younger cast or the older cast better?
I liked the younger cast better.
Me too.
But
I don't know why
I
they
got
had
used to the
more.
older cast.
I did get used to it, and I get it. We're gonna go in, and it's probably gonna be more time jumps, and it's gonna be the kids, and the kids are gonna get older, and whatever, and it's gonna be generational warfare, right? And I get it, but I don't know. There was something magical about the younger cast that it was just more captivating to watch them. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like the actress who's playing Rhaenyra now.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't like her. But I'm watching the show though.
She doesn't carry herself in the same way as Princess Rhaenyra.
Yeah, I don't know.
When she was
There's
the younger
something about
version.
her.
Mm-hmm. I think it's because the younger version did such a good job at, portraying the princess, and we were so invested in her that when it switched to a different person, and she's like, "Oh, who the hell is this? This is not Princess Rhaenyra."
I heard the rumor. The rumor is that Disney. I mean, not Disney. HBO is going to try to see if they could bring them back, maybe with like flashbacks or something like that, because the people do they love both the younger Rhaenyra and Allison. So they're going to try to see if they can give them some more work and some more scenes, and just so that we can see them again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, this is the scene where she's giving birth. The queen wants to see the baby because she wants to see. She just wants to see the hair color, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it black or is it white?
Yeah. And she says her little comment to the prince.
Like, maybe one of
hey,
these
keep
days
trying. Maybe you'll get one that looks like you.
Yeah.
The king, of course, is oblivious. He don't give a shit. He's just like, "Oh, my daughter's popping out, baby."
You know what? I think he knows, but he doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, family's family, right? He's like
the
Vin
and
Diesel
his daughter is the one who's producing the children, so it is like legitimately his line still.
Right. But once again, this is where we see the challenges of like, yo, you have bastards, you have bastards, you have bastards, and anybody who says that, was it? He said, "I'll have your tongue for that."
Mm-hmm. Was that this episode?
I believe so. I believe it was questioned at one point.
Oh, that's episode 8. That's episode 8. We're skipping ahead again.
No, not episode 8, because he said it numerous times
Mm.
in a couple of episodes. I think I might have jumped ahead to episode 7, where it was first brought in question. He was like, "Listen, anybody brings it to question again, I'm gonna have your tongue for it."
Yeah. Also early in this episode, Damien is off living, his best life, having children and everything with
Yes, his sister,
yeah,
the other Valerian.
yeah. And she goes into birth this episode also.
Yes.
She goes into labor. She has a similar issue with the pregnancy that we saw in the first episode. And this was kind of it kind of connected that first episode here, because now Damon's the one in position of having to choose whether to cut open his wife or not. And he had made light of the situation when his brother
He said what he said. He said the prince for a day.
For a day, yes.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. And he made light of it. Karma came. And mind you, this is where Damon's like you said, Damon's living the best of his life. He's happy.
Mm-hmm.
He's happy. He has a wife that he wants to be with. He has 2 beautiful daughters. Like, he's just in his own world. They were like, you can stay here forever, as long as you want. He's like, cool, I'm staying here. Like, he left that whole past behind until the very end.
Yes, where we see her, where we see Lena, and we see her make the difficult choice of, she's facing the fact that she's going to die, and she doesn't want to go out the same way. She doesn't want to go out in childbirth. So she goes out and she pleads for her dragon to end it.
Mm-hmm.
And
mind you, she was at the tournament in the very first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was like 7 or 8 or something like that when it happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was very young when it happened. But they were at the tournament when everybody was buzzing and all that. So that was kind of like you said, she didn't want to go out the same way.
Mm-hmm. We also see the hands. So the hand has 2 sons. And the one that is sleeping with the Princess Rhaenyra, he kind of gets, egged into a fight that proves that he is, in fact, sleeping with Rhaenyra. Yeah. So, then we see the whole scene where his brother, which is the creepy dude, goes and, has this conversation with the queen, tells Queen Alicent, like, hey, what difference would it be if your dad was still in the picture? She says her part. So he goes and he kills his own father and brother.
Yes, to get that opening so that way he could be the hand. And she's like, I didn't ask you to do that. He's like, we'll make amends. I don't listen. It's not just for Alicent too, because now he becomes the patriarch of the strong household, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's playing the politics. He's doing it. Yeah, it's against his own family, but that's how some people are when it comes to power, right? That's when it comes, playing that game of the politics, right? So he's definitely knows how to play the game, and that's what he did. He played the game. Yeah, he killed his own father and his own brother in the fire.
What else happens this episode? All right, so we see those deaths.
Credits. All right, let's go to the next episode. What episode are we on now? 7? 6?
7.
7. 7 is where it starts getting good. This is where it starts getting
episode
good.
7, Driftmark.
Yeah, Driftmark. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the one where everybody comes together for the funeral of Lena, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lena Valerian.
Yeah.
And we could see all the houses. They're all there. There's tension in the air, right? Mm-hmm. There's tension between Daemon and his brother. There's tension between Alicent and Rhaenyra. There's even tensions between the Valerians, right?
Right.
Uh, the queen that never was, and her husband, between the other houses and the other families.
We're starting to see the house of the dragon crumble.
Yes, and tensions coming out. The cracks are starting to show.
Mm-hmm.
The games are starting to be played.
Let me see. Oh, so this is the episode where Damon and Rhaenyra decide like they need her husband gone
Yes,
so that they can
because
win.
this
So they can,
this is this is the episode where Rhaenyra is like, I gotta start playing the game. I need
mhm.
to start playing the Game of Thrones. And so she's saying, let's realign. Let me align myself with Damon, who's always had a soft spot for me because I know I'm gonna have loyalty, right? I'm
Mhm.
a Targaryen. He's a Targaryen. We're gonna have that loyalty. We're gonna have that bond. We're gonna have the strength going into the conflict that's ahead of us, which is smart. It's smart, but I like how the show did this. I don't know if Rhaenyra was part of it. I really don't have the clarity if Rhaenyra was part of it. But the fact that she left it on Damon and Damon was like, "Yo, get out of Dodge," and they let
Mhm.
him go. They let him go free, which I was
Yeah.
like, "Yo, that's dope." I thought they were gonna kill him off, but I was like, "Yo,
Yeah.
that's dope."
Which also has my mind going because now this is another character who we have kind of like off in the distance,
Mm-hmm.
who may be brought into future seasons.
Are we gonna see
When
conflict in season 2, season 3 with him? Is
yeah,
he
and we
gonna be an
also have
ally?
um, the possibility that Rhaenyra's son somehow survived that fall.
Oh, I don't
We
think
don't
so.
actually see him like he doesn't get chomped up by the dragon, so that's kind of a thing. Like, hey, it's a future season. We're gonna really find out that
No,
oh
what
god,
this is all based on the books, and from the books they clearly said he was going to die, and all the book readers were waiting for that scene.
okay,
And if you go in Somo, you could definitely see that dragon came.
it did. It tore the other dragon to pieces.
I
Oh
think it
my
just, I think he got eaten in one gulp.
god.
You see how you're eating those M&Ms in one gulp? That's how he got eaten in one gulp. He instantly became an M&M in that scene.
And then we also see oh, what's his name right here? Aemon? Is that his name? The son's name? Well, he's up on the screen now. This is when he goes and he claims the dragon right at the funeral.
Oh yeah. So we didn't cover the scene in the last episode. The scene with Damon's wife went up and she's like Dracarys, and the dragon was like, "Huh? What?
Right.
No." And then she was like Dracarys, and the dragon was like, "No." And then finally, he's just he's finally like, "Fine, I'll do it."
Mm-hmm.
Bruh, and kills her. But she was the dragon rider of the biggest dragon there is
Right.
currently, because there is another bigger dragon, but he's like
It's not. He's
untamable.
untamed. Right.
Yeah, he's untamed.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, Dracarys, and he was like, "No, I'm not gonna do it. No, I'm not gonna do it." And so we see later on in this episode, you know, Aemon as a
Aemon.
kid,
Yeah.
he, which he always had that fascination with dragons, right? They
Mm-hmm.
were always making fun of him because he doesn't have one. They were like, "Oh, they brought that pig in with the wings and all that," joking around with him and stuff. And so he he braved enough and climbed on the dragon.
Yep.
And then the dragon took off. He was like, "Oh, what the hell? Get off me!" And like he was trying to get him off of him and stuff, and he kept holding on and holding on. And I think at that point, that's when the dragon was like, "Okay, all right, you want to ride? Okay, I respect you." And then I think that's when the dragon was like, "I tried my hardest to get you off of me, and you held on, so I'm cool with you now."
And also the dragon, was in its own pain and suffering. Like it had feelings and it had that hesitation in killing its rider.
Uh huh.
So and it shows kind of like the dragon feeling down, feeling just no had no kind of life in him. Because he just lost his rider.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when we see the young prince come over and kind of say like, "Hey, you are now gonna, bend to me," the dragon wasn't a vulnerable place to be approached in that way.
Right.
You know, had his rider still been alive, that scene would have been much different. You know.
Well, that's true. I don't think if his rider was still alive, Aemon would not go and try to climb him.
Right.
Because everybody knows, the lore is like when you bond with your dragon, your dragon's only gonna bond with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but man, that scene.
He saw his opportunity, and that kid had balls. To go after this dragon, huge dragon.
He did, and I think as we go through each of these episodes, we start to see Aemon is starting to evolve to become like the next Daemon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Daemon actually acknowledged that. In a couple of scenes, you see that little smirk and the look that Daemon keeps giving, Aemon, like, yo, you feel like you're like a little me.
Yeah,
you're like a little me. I gotta watch out for you.
Mm-hmm. So he comes back from being on the dragon, and the girls are like, "What are you doing? That's my mom's dragon."
Yep.
And the cousins come out, and they all start fighting.
He's like, not
Everyone's
anymore.
punching everybody.
Yo,
and
but this scene, because this is another scene. These are the books, and all the book readers are like, yo, are they actually gonna do this scene? Are they gonna water it down? Yo, they held true to this scene, and like kids were hitting kids. Like the little girl struck Aemon, and Aemon just knocked her out
right back. Yep.
I was like, oh shit, it's 2022. We're hitting girls. Oh shit. I was like, hold up.
Mm-hmm. Well, tired of being bullied, Luke comes, he throws the dirt, and he pulls his knife and he slashes, and sure enough, he lands that movement, and it takes out Aemon's eye.
Yep. Then the guards come, breaks them up, and then this is where we get the first like tense scene. So like the episode started and it was very tense, but it was like that silent tense, like that passive aggressive kind of tense. This is full on aggressive tense, right? Yeah. Mother between mother, all the drama. I think Cole's even in the room. Everybody's smirking. Everybody's questioning. Everybody's like, "Yo, what's going on?" Right?
Mm-hmm. Yo, but Aemon is so badass when he like looks at his mom and is like, "No, like I traded an eye for a dragon."
That when he said that, did you see the face on Otto Hightower?
No, I missed that.
The look he had, he was like, "Oh."
Like there was respect?
Yeah, like mad respect for Aemon at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember.
Again, this is the biggest dragon. Like he's the younger brother. He's the one who's always being bullied, and he finally stood up for himself.
And but remember too, like we also had that one scene where his older brother was like drunken somewhere, and Otto like kicked him, and he's like disappointed.
Yes.
And like he's kind of disappointed in his grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, how can you guys take the throne if you're such a hot mess, right? See, Otto's over there, and he's like, but when Aemon said this, he was like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. He's like, I lost an eye, but I gained a dragon.
Right.
Allison was all about it. She was like, an eye for an eye, I'll take it myself.
Yeah, she was like, I'll do it myself. Grab the knife, goes after the kid. Rhaenyra, of course, jumps in the way. Motherly instinct. Now we see the two of them going head to head, and
she got that scar in her arm now.
Yeah, and Rhaenyra kind of like eggs her on, like, oh, like now everyone sees like who you truly are, kind of thing. And I think really that's why Allison kind of like gets pushed over the edge and does cut Rhaenyra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then this was in the scene where they were questioning
the legitimacy
of her kid. And he was like, the king was like asking, where did you hear this from? Where did you hear it from? And he was asking Aemon, right? So that's the younger one. And he was like, I heard it from my brother. And so then the king goes to the brother. Mind you, these are his sons, right?
Right.
These are his sons. And he goes to the brother, and he's like, where did you hear that from? Where did you hear that from? And he's like,
everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
They're bastards. You know?
But mind you, they're all looking at their mother because
Mhm.
this is that like toxicness that and it's not just Allison's fault either because this is the toxicness that was coming from Otto too. Like
Mhm.
Otto's been feeding this into Allison, and Allison's been feeding it to her kids.
Yeah.
And Otto, his whole like he's playing his daughter. His whole scheme is that he just wants to have the throne, right? He just wants to have that power. But he keeps feeding into his daughter that if Rhaenyra becomes queen, right,
Yeah. She's
your
coming for you
kids,
and your kids.
right, because you're a direct challenge to that throne,
Mm-hmm.
which is not true because they were childhood friends.
Right.
Like I don't see Rhaenyra doing that, but she's believing in it because her father's manipulating her, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this whole scene, man, it was just so beautiful. It's just the way it was written, and it was just so tenseful. But and like you were just waiting for one of them to be like my mother because it's her. It's all
Mm-hmm.
coming from her. But neither one, like he passed
Nobody
the ball
threw
to his
mom
brother.
under the bus. They were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I can't
right,
say mom.
right.
I can't
So
say
he
mom."
passed it to his brother. He threw his brother under the bus, and then the brother was smart. He was like everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So he threw everyone under the bus. And then that's when he said it in this episode. He was like, if anybody questions, question the legit, the hey,
Legitimacy
they're
of
bastards
my
again, right?
grandchildren. Mm-hmm.
Your tongue is mine. Such a good scene. That was such a good
Right. This
scene.
is at the end of the episode is when we lose her husband, this dude.
Yes, because this is after that whole conflict. That's when Rhaenyra kind of woken up. She was kind of she could see it with her eyes. She's like things are heating up. The game's being played. I'm not catching up. I need to get my alliance together.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the best alliance? Her uncle, right?
Yeah.
So she talks to Damon. She's like, listen, we got to realign ourselves because there's a storm coming.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it in that room. It's coming. The show's so good. Like that episode, it was like, all right. So you still haven't told me what was the episode where you got hooked.
Oh man, I was definitely hooked by this point.
I know that. I know
Um,
that. But what was the episode where you got like hooked?
damn.
Because you were like, when we get to that part, I'll let you know.
Yeah, they didn't say it. Let me go back through my notes.
This episode was the episode where it made me finally feel like we're full on Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
And like when this episode ended, it was where I was like, I want more. Instantly, I was like, I want more. I hate that I have to wait a whole week for the show again. Like that was this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I was definitely hooked before that. I was curious to see what episode you said you got hooked
I
on.
definitely feel like same thing. Driftwood was definitely one of the episodes for me that made me want to like see the rest of everything else unfold.
The show. Yeah, you were hooked.
I don't know.
Yeah, by this episode, it's full steam ahead.
I was kind of pulled into it when they started showing like both Rhaenyra's story and Allison's story. And showing how their relationship was unfolding and seeing how, Allison was growing into the queen and Rhaenyra was, she's still princess, but she was preparing herself for that next role. I don't know, maybe episode, what is that, 2, 3?
I think
4?
episode, I would say episode, it was probably episode 4. Because that's what I was going to say for me. Like the first 3 episodes was kind of dragging ass. Mm-hmm. That's why I was kind of like moving us along when we were talking about it because it was just, I don't know. I still was kind of like background watching those first 3 episodes, and I think it was more with episode 4, like around episode 4, 5, where it started like feeling like it was full steam ahead. Definitely, this episode was already like, all right, we're in it. We're in full Game of Thrones mode. Now, out of curiosity, Lynn, did you like this season better than season 1 of Game of Thrones?
Oof, I don't remember season 1 of Game of Thrones.
That was the whole with Ned Stark when Robert Baratheon died, and and Ned Stark was the hand, and they beheaded him and all that. Remember, Arya was fighting with the
Yeah, and that was
sword
all the
dude.
first season.
Yeah, yeah. She had to get out of the kingdom.
Damn.
Sansa.
I feel like this first season has just been so action packed that it's hard to compare it. You know, and like with me not having season 1 of Game of Thrones fresh in my mind, I gotta say, like, this is the better season, the first season.
I would say, you know why? I would say that this is the better season because I have a bias, and I'm gonna throw out the bias out there. I'm gonna say
Mm-hmm.
my bias is that I know Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
So I know where this show can go because we've seen how good Game of Thrones get. So when I saw that first season, mind you, I didn't see that first season when it was on TV. I think it was like the show was already season 2 or 3 when I got caught on with season 1,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I was like, oh, it's spilling buzz. People are talking about Game of Thrones. So I was like, oh, all right, let me watch it. And then I binge watched it. I was like, oh shit, this is good. But even then, it wasn't until like I watched the show like the second or third time of watching it where I was actually paying attention to what was going on.
Right.
You know? So like people's names, it's like you watch this new show and there's so many names. It's like I can't follow along.
Mm-hmm.
This one though, I was kind of following along because I was like, listen, it's Game of Thrones now. So
Uh-huh.
I think once it really felt like it was like, all right, this is full on Game of Thrones. Let me go ahead and like pay attention, watch it, and I was like on the edge of my seat. So I would definitely say that this was the episode where I was definitely on the edge of my seat. And I wanted the next one. Like, give me the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, the best part of this episode though is like they lined their houses and they didn't have to kill him. They were like,
Right.
listen, take your lover, go on a boat, and get the fuck out of Dodge.
Right.
Which that's cool. I like that. Which once again, it shows you the 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 compassion. I want to say of the House of Black, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like this is where I wish the show would have had a little more clarity as far as if it was Rhaenyra's idea or if it was Damon's idea,
Right.
because that way I can actually know, okay, Damon's not that much of a monster. He does have compassion. If it was his idea, right? And like we do see compassion in Rhaenyra with her hesitation, her being diplomatic. Later on down the road, where she's like, oh, "I don't want to go to war. I don't want to go to war," until shit starts hitting the fan, and she's like, "All right, it's game time."
Right.
All right, let's get into the juice of it. We only got 30 more minutes. Let's go.
All right. So episode number 8, The Lord of the Tides. There's another 6-year jump.
Yes,
The Driftmark succession suddenly critical. Rhaenyra attempts to strike a bargain with Rhaenyra.
yes. And it
Rhaenys.
opens up with Queen. Oh no, Princess Rainey, right?
Mhm.
That's the nickname they give her. It opens up with her, and she has that dialogue, the monologue, to let she's like, I haven't seen my husband in 6 years.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, we should really be talking about who's going to succeed him if he dies, because he's out fighting a war somewhere, right?
Right.
So
The
he's fighting out.
the Sea King, the Sea Snake.
Yeah, he's out there fighting a war somewhere, and they're like, we don't know if he's going to come back. We
Yep.
don't
He's
know.
injured. He's ill. He may not survive this.
Right. And so it was already put in place that um Rhaenyra's second oldest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because her first child, her first son, the oldest son, is supposed to take over the crown when she's done with the crown, right?
Right.
And then her second youngest, Luke, was supposed to be the heir to Driftmark, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
what it is? Driftmark? Yeah.
Driftwood,
So,
Driftmark,
Driftmark. I don't know.
Driftmark.
I like Driftmark. It sounds cool. But his brother is questioning once again the legitimacy of her children.
Mm-hmm.
That like no bastard is gonna take over, our
house.
our house. Yeah. Mind you, the episode before, which was a great line from what's his name? the current patriarch of the House Valyrian, right? He
Mhm.
was like, "What does blood matter? It doesn't matter blood. It matters the name." He's
Right.
like, "They still have my name, and they're gonna have my name for ages." So that's that. Like when he said that, I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, that is true." What does
Mhm.
blood matter? Yeah, it's all about the name. And he's like, "They still have my name, right?" So I was like, "Oh, okay." So he was okay with them taking over, his title, his
Mhm.
home, all that stuff.
Yeah, as
But
long as the name carried.
yeah, but his brother had other plans.
So, this we start this episode with Rhaenyra and Daemon. And they return to King's Landing after being over at Dragonstone for a few years, and
Hmm.
they come home to a King's Landing that they don't recognize.
Yeah,
Allison has made a bunch of changes.
she
We
has
see the
the
king
what's it
is
that
frail.
religion? She went super religious. So imagine
Yeah,
you
the
going over somebody's
seven
house and it's like super religion.
seven stars
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, yeah. She's taking
It's
over.
more of a monastery, like there's not the same
Hmm.
like bustling, airy feel that we saw King's Landing portrayed in like previous episodes.
Right, right, right.
Oh, we see the king. Like I said, the king is looking frail as hell. Looking like he usually
I was actually surprised he was still alive in this episode because didn't he collapse on
I
the last
agree. Yeah,
episode?
he like collapsed at the end of like the last episode.
No, he collapsed like 2 episodes ago. Like at the end of the wedding, he collapsed,
I feel like he's
and I
been
was like,
collapsing at the end of every episode.
"Yeah, he really does."
He's
It's like a
been
it's like
falling
a
apart.
cliffhanger. Like, is he gonna be here? And then like,
Yep.
sure enough, I see him, and I'm like, "Oh shit, he's still alive."
This shot right
So
here is for
like,
you, Ray.
oh yeah, yeah, he's working on his. Yep, he's
Yeah,
working
so you
on
can
his.
see like
Like,
the
that's all he
cobwebs
wants,
starting.
man.
He at this point he's not working on it anymore. There's cobwebs all over it. You can just tell like he's not really paying attention to
Poor
his
guy.
passion
That's
right
all he wanted to do was play with his Legos, man. Nobody would let him play with his Legos.
Come on,
Oh
Jughead.
yes, at this point he real. So there were stages to his shutdown. So by the
Yes.
wedding, he was
He
still walking
lost some
around, but he
hair at the one
collapsed.
scene, one
Yeah,
episode
yeah,
he had like
yeah.
half
And
his
then
hair.
the next episode, he had like no arm, but he was still walking around. He's still mobile.
Hmm.
This one, he's just done. He's bedridden. He can't get up. His half his face is gone.
Hmm.
And this scene got me so sad. Don't skip the scene. Don't skip it yet. Don't skip it, sir.
Okay,
Because this
okay.
scene got me so sad in a good way though,
Hmm.
because like he's bedridden, right? This guy, like he's all about family. And when she presented his new grandkids, and he
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, this one's Aegon. Oh, and by the way, this one's
Valeris, after you.
yeah, yeah, his name." And you saw his face light up when Tito, you saw his face light up when she said his name,
Yep.
and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like he's just so happy, and like he's just about like family, and that's what he's always been about. Like he doesn't want to be challenged about anything. It's like, look, this is my line, this is my family, get along. Like he doesn't understand why House Green and House Black do not get along. He's like, we're all family. Like, what the hell's going on? See, this is the scene. Like he's all so happy. He's like, oh, what a fitting name.
Hmm.
But he felt so
Strong
honored
name.
that she would name him after him. But that's like her fifth child by then, right?
Yeah, at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we had Luke, we had the older one, we have a Joffrey somewhere around there.
Hmm.
That name Joffrey. Why did everybody keep speaking that name?
It's a
And
family
then
name, okay?
yeah, but I keep thinking Joffrey of freaking Game of Thrones. Oh, that
Right.
sounds so horrible.
All right. So then later in this episode, we see when he kind of like hobbles his way into the
But no,
throne
but
room.
also in that episode, in that room too, like Damon like actually had compassion for his brother.
Yes. When
Like
he
Damon
knows his
started
brother
like Damon's
upset.
definitely well not that not no no not no even before that, and when they're in the bedroom. When they're
Mhm.
in the bedroom and they're talking, like Damon looks at his brother and like Damon I kind of feel like Damon he doesn't want to acknowledge his brother like that. Like he doesn't want to see his brother being fragile like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he also kind of like he still has compassion for him. And then we see that come to fruition when you know this scene right here. This scene alone, this is the reason why I say that Patty deserves an Emmy. Like when he comes walking in that scene,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because at first, when the guards all move and all that, I thought it was gonna be the leader of the Driftwood, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Snake King or whatever. He was gonna come in and he's like, "Yeah, this is my house. What are we talking about?"
Right.
But the fact that he walks in, and then you know they took the time to just show him walking really slow, making his way to the
Drops his
throne.
crown.
Yeah, he drops his crown. He's like, "Leave me alone. I got this." And
Mm-hmm.
then then we see he's like, "I said leave me alone." And then he's like, then the camera pans and it's Damon, and Damon picks up the crown, hands it to him, and then helps him up. And even this is the scene where I say that we see the queen that never was,
Mm-hmm.
where she looks at him and she's like, "You know what? You were the right one. You were the right one to be the king." And like I think she acknowledged him, like I'm glad you have it, not me.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole scene, like I feel like this is the scene where he, like when you watch a movie and you're like, this is an award-winning scene. This is it. This is it right here. Like he definitely deserves to get an Emmy. But I love it when he sits down. He's like, "Why are we here today? I thought already. I thought the matter was already determined."
Right. And
Oh,
that's
and I
when
love it.
the
I love it.
C-state decides to like speak up and say, well, what do you mean? This is
The
not,
brother, yeah, the brother,
yeah, the
comes
brother.
up.
He's like, yo, like this is my house that you're,
I like
know,
going a few scenes
fighting
back
over.
though. Don't I like the part when Otto was sitting on that throne and he was like, "Get out!
Mm,
I'm gonna be sitting on it today."
right.
Because that's how Otto's been, and Otto's been like that for years.
Mm-hmm.
Like my theory is like I feel like Otto was the one poisoning him, even
Mm,
though we kind of saw he was like deteriorating before, even when Otto was gone all those years.
mm-hmm.
But I still think it might have been Otto doing something. I don't know. I don't trust that dude. I don't trust that dude one bit. That dude's shady.
All right. So then the brother, the Valerian brother, Valerian.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. He steps up. He's like, listen, like you do what you want in your kingdom, but as far as like my line, my house, I won't accept this. Those kids are bastards.
Yeah. And
And
and and she's a whore. That's what he said.
yeah,
And she's a whore.
the king is like, I will have your tongue for this. And his
Yeah.
brother
Whoop.
steps
Let's
in.
see if we
Whoop,
see it. Let's see if we see it. Do we see it? Man, she's a... Yeah. And then Allison's like standing there like, oh, okay, all right.
yeah, he can keep
But
his tongue.
this, yeah, he could keep his tongue, yeah. Because he lost his head. And I like how like they go, the guards are like, get his sword. I'm like, what are you gonna do? He's the brother of the king. What are you doing?
Yeah, we see him having his autopsy done, even though we all know what the cause of death was.
Yep.
And at the end of this is when the king's like, listen, I just want all my family together for a dinner.
Yeah.
Everyone together.
You know what? And it's sad because I really do feel like this scene, like Allison and Rhaenyra was kind of like coming together.
Yes.
They were actually was like they were talking. They apologized to each other. I think there was some sincerity, even to the point where Allison was like, "Oh, don't leave. Stay. And she's like, "Well, let me take the kids and I'll come back."
Yeah.
And like I really truly felt like they heeded, at least between those two, they heeded the king's message of like, listen, as a dying man's wish, I'm falling apart here. You are my family. Let's be family together. And I was like, yo, I felt like they were gonna heed his warning. Like they were like, not heed his warning, but heed his message and be like, all right, let's be, we're better united. Let's heal the divide. Let's come together.
And we saw that acceptance with the older generation here. And then we see, the younger generation, the kids, the cousins, that they don't respect that shit. As soon as the king is, out. He's like, they're starting to pick on each other again and
Yep.
just, jab, jab. Excuse me, jab,
Yep.
jab with the comments.
Strong.
Mm-hmm.
How's that? I said he's a strong boy. That's a compliment. And the siblings definitely, the kids and the younger generation definitely has tension. But that's new tension because that's from the scene before when they had that fight and he lost his eye. That's not going to mend itself right there, as we see later on when we get to the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, what a
then
good
we
show.
have the scene
What a good
where then we have the final scene where the king he's drinking the mocha poppy and he's kind of just thinking out loud about the prophecy and speaking about I think in this scene he thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra. He thinks he's finishing a conversation that he started earlier with his daughter, and instead it's the queen at his side. And we're not knowing the prophecy or anything else.
Right. Because Daemon didn't even know the prophecy. Daemon didn't know the prophecy. The only one that knew the prophecy was Rhaenyra. And mind you, he says Aegon, which I think he's talking about Aegon, the new Aegon. Because there's two Aegons.
Right.
There's two Aegons. There's the one, his son Aegon, and then there's Rhaenyra's son Aegon.
Yes.
So when he's talking about
one of the blonde sons.
yeah. So
I think it's the
he's
older
talking
of the two from Daemon.
And I really truly do believe that he thinks he was talking to Rhaenyra, and he was like, Aegon, your son Aegon, that's the prince that was promised. It's the prophecy, like what you said earlier, that he's all about the those prophecies and the metaphors and the symbolism and all that stuff. So he's talking, but to me, I think the only person he ever told about that prophet or that whole story was Rhaenyra.
Was Rhaenyra, because Rhaenyra was his intended
heir.
Yeah, and it has been passed down like generations from heir to heir.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when we see that Daemon comes to realize that she knows the prophecy, it kind of like solidifies in his mind that Rhaenyra was the heir. Because and that pisses him off. It enrages him.
No. Daemon didn't know the prophet.
No, but when he notices that Rhaenyra does know it, is when he gets pissed and he chokes her. And there's this whole scene. I think it's the beginning of the next episode, which we can.
No, that's it. That was in season 10. I mean, not season 10, episode 10.
Episode 10?
But let's go into episode 9. Because episode 9 is the one you liked.
Yeah, episode 9 was good.
This one, I feel like they had a little hiccup, and it was towards the end. But you're right. It was good in the sense that it's starting to put down the race to the throne, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, so very beginning of the episode, we find out that the king has passed.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the spies, they light up the candles. They let the little spy network know the king is dead. And so as they let the king, let the kingdom know the king is dead, the spy network is starting to make moves to get control of Aegon, right?
Right. And we find out early in the episode, when the queen goes to the council, is like, well, this was my husband's dying wish. We found out that the council is already plotting. They've been
plotting against Rhaenyra.
To make her son the king. Yes.
And Otto's been working on that. All behind the scenes.
The one old man who was like hell bent on like, no, like Rhaenyra is, our queen. They took him out.
It's Aegon. He's like, shut up, old man.
This dude right here.
Killed him.
Yeah.
Yo, man, that sucks, man. He killed him too.
And Cole is the one who kills him.
Yes. But I'm surprised that he got away with that. None of the guards, nobody was like, yo, take this man away. He just killed one of the council members.
Right. But because he already had, the favor of the queen,
mm-hmm.
He kind of had that security.
I love how the King's Guard, right? The leader, how he positioned himself so he can walk away without getting beheaded. He was like, well, I am the King's Guard, but there's no king here. So until my duty is called for, I'm gonna excuse myself.
Right.
He's like, I'm getting out of here.
And we do see the whole at this point we're looking for, well, where is Prince Aegon? Because, he's the new king. We have to, get to him before basically
Yeah, so
Allison wants to find him before her father does, the hand.
yes, because in that room there was a tension between Allison and Otto in the sense that Otto wants to kill her now.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, yo, if I get Aegon, she's done. Where Allison was like, no, I know my husband, that would not be his wish. Which once again, she doesn't feel like she's overthrowing or anything like that. She feels like he told me Aegon should be king. Aegon's gonna be king, but
Mm-hmm.
Allison's still family. She's still friend. We're gonna offer a sweet deal. We're gonna let her keep her life and all that. And Otto's like, nah, she's gonna challenge it. What are you doing? So this is where we see that race, and I believe Otto sends the twins.
Right.
Eric and Eric, I think that's the two twins. They're Eric
Eric
and Eric.
Auric.
Yeah, Eric and Eric. And then Allison sends Cole, who's loyal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Aemon to go find his brother, right?
Right. Which
So
I think
Aemon,
at first Allison, she doesn't want Aemon to go out there. Her mind is like, if something has happened, like, you are the next king.
Yes.
But he insists. He's like, listen, I know my brother's movements. I know where to find him.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny too, because like Aegon's like, I don't want to be king. He's been saying this the whole show. He's like, I don't want it. But Aemon wants it. That dude wants it. He wants it bad. He's like, yo, put me out. Yo, when they come looking for me, I'm be available.
Mm-hmm.
I'm be sitting here like, let's go. I want to be king.
So we see, the turmoil that's going on between the twins, because the one twin feels, I think Eric feels as though, it's his duty to just follow blindly whatever his orders are. And he's like, he believes like King Aegon is the new king, versus his brother, who feels like, no, like, we've been watching this fool his whole life. This is not right. We need to find, the queen. And so we see the scene where they do apprehend Aegon, and they're confronted by Cole. Mm-hmm. The one Eric brother, he kind of pulls back and he doesn't help his brother when his brother gets defeated. And then he kind of disappears off into the shadows.
Mm-hmm. And we actually see him in episode 10.
Mm-hmm.
He has a nice cameo. He has a nice cameo in episode 10. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the race goes, and of course, the strategies are put in place. They're questioning the people, like, are you loyal to Aegon? Are you loyal to House Green? The scene prior to that was the scene where Allison comes in and goes to Princess Rainey and was like, hey, he said Aegon's gonna be king. We're making Aegon king. Are you loyal to us? And she's like, what's going on? And she was like, I'm gonna let you stay in your room for you to decide. And she locks her in her room, right?
Right.
And of course, there's the HBO feminism crap where they say, oh, why are you making all these moves? You're always gonna be in the shadow of men, be it your husband, your father, or your sons. You're always gonna be in the shadow. Blah 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 blah. Which I don't understand any of that crap, because Allison has power. As you can see, Allison making moves. Mm-hmm. Not only does Allison have power, she has dudes simping for her. Like, she has Cole and she has Strong both simping for her, right? Mm-hmm. So why do we have to keep having that crap in it? But whatever, it's in it. We'll keep going. So
then we have the scene where they found the prince, and his mother's telling him, like, listen, it was your father's dying wish for you to be king after all. And he's like,
because he knows. He's like, I know my father.
Right? He's like, stop messing with me. Like, I know damn well my dad hated me. Like, he didn't even like me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He never intended for me to be king. Like, so we see even he himself is like, dude, there's no way. This is definitely not what my father wanted.
So we know that he definitely loved Rhaenyra, but why didn't he was like not attached to his sons? Do you think it was because at that point he was already deteriorating, or do you think it was because he like truly still loved his first wife?
I think it was because his boys, not that his boys were coming up a certain way, but his firstborn son was kind of a disappointment. He was a joke. He didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to really do anything. He just wanted to
Yeah.
party and slack off.
Which we do see that. We do see like the little bit of scenes that we do see. We see Rhaenyra being a really good mom.
Hmm.
She's educating her kids. She's raising her kids. We see them that they're very well behaved. It's
Hmm.
like night and day between the two.
Right.
Like Aegon is sleeping there all around, getting drunk, sleeping on everybody. Which we see that in here too. We see like all his little bastard children all around town.
Hmm.
So he's making babies everywhere, and like Aemon is like a little hothead, just wants to go off and fight everybody, just like a little Damon. And we see the other two boys, right? Rhaenyra's the two strong boys, right? We see them, and they're just very proper, right? Very well behaved, very well spoken, very well educated. They're very diplomatic, right? And it's night and day between the two, right?
Yeah. And we especially see that in episode 10 when, her eldest actually steps up and says, like, no, I should be the one to go on Dragonback and take this message. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
get into that more. So now we're going into the scene where they're crowning the king. And this is
Mm-hmm.
happening like the morning after the king has died.
Mm-hmm.
Like Rhaenyra hasn't been
Moving
notified.
fast.
They
They're
haven't
moving
even
fast.
had like the funeral for the king yet, and they're already
Nope.
saying, "Hey, this is
Crowning
your
him.
new king."
Crown
Hmm.
him. Yep.
So of course,
Within
this
a
is a
matter
very
of hours.
beautiful scene. They have the whole King's Guard come in, and they march in, and they bring the king in, and of course that magic of music in the background. You just
Mm-hmm.
feel that this is an important,
And you know what? The people don't care. They're like, whoever you appoint, whatever. They're like,
Mhm.
oh, yay, you telling us to applaud. Okay, yay.
Right. And I mean, there was a moment of hesitation with the people when they say, like, hey, this is your king. Everyone's kind of like, okay. They're looking at each other. But ultimately they do accept him and they're all cheering him on, you
Because, I
know.
mean, literally, it does make sense. That's the firstborn son. At this
Right.
time, this day and age, it does make sense. Like, okay, king's dead. Okay, there's the new king. All right, it makes sense. And like, but Aegon doesn't want it until everybody starts applauding him, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I kind of do want this."
Right. You
Because
start
he's gonna
seeing
be
his face. He's like, oh, I can
right.
get used to
I like the
this.
attention, and you could tell like right off the rip, he's gonna be a bad king. He's gonna be another Joffrey next season, right? It's gonna be horrendous.
All right. And then through that, emotion, we see like the scene is almost coming to an end. It's coming to a close. And they're like, haha,
I
no, it's
I
not.
I
And you
hated
have
this scene
this
right here.
huge dragon pop up
I
through
hate
the
this scene.
ground.
I
Oh
hate this
my
scene.
God. Here we go. So we have this huge dragon pop up through the ground, and we all know who it is because we saw her kind of like sneak off into the
Mm-hmm.
shadows. Um, and this was like a statement of power, of saying like, hey, like this is not this is not the happy celebration that you guys are trying to make it seem.
I hate this scene because you could tell that it's HBO, like it's made for the normies, it's made for TV, it's made
Mhm.
for that entertainment scene, that wow factor. But one, she breaks through the floor, killing all those people.
Right.
That is just crazy. Like anybody who's like that's just reckless. Like why couldn't she like this scene could have been better if she would have just came in from the back window right behind
Mhm.
her and she would have just been flying out that window and everybody saw the dragon and everybody started running instead of her just busting and killing all those people. Like that to me did her character disservice when they did that. Like they like I don't feel like Queen Princess Rainey would have done something like that. I don't think she did that in the books, to be honest with you. Like
Mhm.
and then like the scene, like the next clips where she's looking at them and she could have been like Dracarys and kill them all.
Right.
And then like the next episode, they even ask her that. They're like, "Why did you take care of it? Like you came here on Dragonback. why'd you take care of the issue?
Yeah.
And she's like, it's not on me to start a war. I'm like, but it is on you because you didn't stop it there. Now, now
Now the
we
whole
got
war is
all season
ensued. Yeah.
2. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I just with everything that we had going into this between episode 8, where the king comes in and it's like really intriguing and it's like dialogue heavy, and then we had this episode where, like you said, it was the race to see who's going to be on the throne and all the pieces are being moved, and we see chess. It's like they're playing chess, and then all of a sudden, with this scene, it was just, I don't know. I didn't like this scene. It threw me off. This is the
I don't
reason
know.
why I don't
I
like
loved
this
this
episode.
scene,
Kind of
man.
fell.
Like she popped up through the ground with her dragon, and I was at the edge of my seat. And then, there's a scene where like I jumped out of my seat. I was like staring at my TV. I was just standing there, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? What is she gonna do? Is she gonna take him out? And then the dragon's like mouth opens, and like you see Queen Allison kind of like brace for that impact, and all the dragon does is like scream. And it's such a powerful scene to me. I did notice
I don't
that
like it.
that Otto was in the background screaming like open the doors. And I think that the fact that the people were kind of stuck in here, they weren't able to flee, is more so the reason why she didn't have her dragon just light up the room.
Yeah, but she still killed. Like this is what I'm saying. This is a very bad scene for her character development because she killed all those people just breaking through the floor.
Right.
Not to mention, there's a big hole now. All people are falling down the dragon pit. Like, I don't know. To me, just it really killed her character to do that.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's because they wanted that epic girl boss moment, but I'm like, but you killed the character doing that.
Mm. Right, and then there is the final episode.
Because in the next episode, it kind of contradicts her character too, and I'll tell you how. We'll go through it, but it's like, oh my God, HBO, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? Because you want that big girl moment.
We're actually at our 2-hour mark, guys. This is usually where we say adios, but we are going to run a little late tonight, so we can finish this because we have the final episode, the season finale, to talk about. For those of you who are new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and also hit that like button. It helps us with the algorithm, and welcome to the channel. So episode number 10, the season finale.
On the 2-hour mark, you have a question on our thumbnail that was like, was it worth watching? Is this show worth watching? Would you recommend this show?
I definitely recommend this show. I mean, I recommended it from the first 10 minutes of our live. I definitely think even if, maybe you weren't a Game of Thrones fan, I think it's still a good show to jump into, specifically because of the incorporation of the dragons. I feel as though like this is just an epic show.
Okay. All right. I definitely recommend it. I recommend it to you. I was like, yo, let's watch this damn thing. So I'm curious though. I know we're going into episode 10 and we're going to talk about it overall. But so you gave Game of Thrones a 7 out of 10 overall for the show. Mm-hmm. What would you give this season?
So it's only the first season.
First season, just the first season. What would you give it?
I want to give it a 9 only because it's like, oh, if I give it a 10, like there's no show better than that kind of thing. I would give it a 9 because, there's just so much going on in this one season, and they're really, developing all these different characters, they're developing the different houses, and, they're answering the questions that, are arising between the lines kind of thing. And it's a captivating show. It keeps you on your edge. It's, you don't know what's going to happen the next episode, and you still have that draw into the story. And of course, the dragons.
I would agree with you, but because of episode 9, I'm giving it an 8. I'm just because of that, I'm giving it an 8.
Okay.
Because listen, I like Princess Rainey. And once again, like, to me, it just breaks her character. And it kind of took me out in that whole episode 10. Every time she would make her moves, and she's like, as we go into it, like, even when she was like, Rhaenyra's the only one that's keeping this kingdom, and she's caring about the people. I'm like, you didn't care about the people when you broke through the freaking floor. Like, to me, like, it's just a misstep. It's really a misstep, and I'm like, I don't know if it's because they're doing it to have that girl boss moment, or just doing it to have a big explosion for the fans or the people to just be like, oh look, action, dragon, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it killed me because it's that her character development. It's like,
It's funny because
hopefully.
the only thing I got from that scene was, I completely ignored the fact that she killed a bunch of people and she broke open,
You can see it. The four
I
girls. And
ignored
everyone's
it.
like,
I ignored it.
ah!
You're actually, you're right, because it is like a scene where, the camera kind of like zooms in on the crowd, and out of nowhere is
Yeah.
when you see it like
It's
break
just
out.
boosh.
But
She's
what I
a
got from this
terrorist.
was that she decided not to have the dragon, light up the house because, she did take a moment to realize that the King's Guard was closing everyone in, and it would have been a worse, outcome for the people. So
I don't know.
as
That
from a woman's
scene was like,
perspective, I was like, look at her worrying about the people.
no, she does. She killed them. She killed hundreds. Hundreds. And now they're all falling in the hole. People going to be digging them out for days.
Yeah. All right, so the news comes to the Princess
Well, she
Rhaenyra.
brings the news. Princess Rainey flies on
Mhm.
her dragon over the Dragonstone, and she's the one that delivers the news saying,
Hey, your
your
father's dead.
father has died,
Oh.
your brother is the king, and your best friend just, you know, overthrew your control. Mind you, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
She was pregnant the last few episodes too. She was pregnant.
Hmm. So then we see
So
this
she.
dramatic, like, oh, she goes into labor kind of thing, and she
Mm-hmm.
can't even flee because, now she's bedridden. Basically, she's stuck here because she's in
Yep.
the middle of labor.
And it looks like the same thing that happened to
Daenerys.
Damon's ex-wife and to her mother is gonna happen to her too.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like she's having complication with birth, and it's like, do we cut her open or whatever? And she's like, no, I'm gonna take care of this myself. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's the scene where she actually takes the baby out of her, and the baby's
Yes.
stillborn, and she's like, let me take this out of me. It's
She's
almost like she had a
stillborn, but it also looks like the baby is grotesque,
yes, but
which
I
gives me
also
the
think
same vibes as Game of Thrones, where the Dragon Queen, she gives birth in the tent to a baby who's like covered in scales and has a tail.
is it that, or I got it that the baby's grotesque because of the incest that's going on.
I don't know.
Remember, she's married to her uncle.
That's true. Well, I mean, the first two kids were perfectly fine. Why this baby gotta come out grotesque?
You never know,
The
man. You
odds,
never
man. The
know.
odds. Yep.
But so then she takes, which honestly I feel like also too, I feel like in a way like she had a miscarriage, so that she, due to all the stress, and then she was like, all right, let me get this baby out of me so I can go and take care of business.
Mm. Yes, because also they tell her like, oh, the baby is not coming out yet. It's not time.
Yes.
Like you haven't completed the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so she does. She gives birth, a stillborn. So now she's dealing with the death of her father, and
Yeah,
also the
yeah. The death of her father,
death. Mm-hmm,
the betrayal of her childhood best friend,
mm-hmm,
right? The loss of a child, right? That she was carrying, right? The loss
mm-hmm,
of a child that she was carrying, and oh yeah, and then she just lost her reign, right?
mm-hmm,
So possibly there might be people coming after her.
mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
All right. So then we're
And
at the
they,
scene.
but Damon was ready, like, they killed my brother. What? They killed my brother. I was like, you just saw me. Half his faces was gone. He said, they killed my brother, these bastards. He was ready to go in. I fucking love Damon, man. Damon is just, oh man. Ever since,
Let
like,
me
I
see
feel
Prince
like
Eric
the,
back.
huh?
I was going to introduce Prince Eric again. Eric.
Yeah. So this is the one of the twins, Eric and Eric, right? So this is the one who's like no, this is what the king's wish was. He comes, and yo, kudos on him though, because he came. He didn't come empty-handed.
Right. Right. He came with the
Yep,
crown.
yep. His brother's crown, and he gave it straight to Damon.
Mm-hmm.
And that shit was like, damn.
Yeah, so she's sitting here and she's dealing with all this grief and she has this night come and she gets to get crowned.
And we didn't also say in the last episode, episode 9, Princess Rainey was let out by Eric, by him.
By him, yes. So he went, let her out, stole the crown, and
Which I don't what I don't understand though is how did he get there? Because I remember like they were going through the city, him and Princess Rainey, and they got separated by the masses.
Yeah.
So she ended up making her way down to get her dragon. Because at one point she was like, I can't leave without my dragon, right? He was like, well, we gotta go to the ships. We gotta go now. I'm trying to get you out of here. And then they got separated by the people and all that. And then so she made her way down and broke out. So as she was flying out, did she grab him? Like, oh!
Well, no, I'm thinking maybe he went ahead and grabbed that ship that he was talking about, because now we're seeing this scene and this is days later. She's now had the whole labor and delivery. Mm-hmm. She's given birth, so it's at least a day later.
So you think he got on the ship and
yeah, he was able to make it to the ships and get the hell out of town.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, she made it there a lot quicker because she was on Dragonback.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. At some point, I forgot all about that. At some point, we decided that these two ladies are going to marry
her sons.
Right, her boys.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was so that they could also seal the legitimacy for Driftmark. Mm-hmm. It was, by the way, your granddaughters are also going to marry, so that there's still some kind of blood, your family blood, as it proceeds, on and on, your lineage or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I think, the Queen that never was, she kind of, her mind had already chosen, to stand behind Rhaenyra, and she didn't really pledge herself to her as her queen, to accept her as.
Well, she didn't kneel. She didn't kneel. When everybody kneeled in that one scene, she was the only one still standing.
Right.
Yeah.
And we see another moment where she has the opportunity to do it, but she doesn't until like she solidifies it with her husband.
Correct. And in that sense, though, she goes and she gives the whole spew like, hey, she's the only one that's keeping this realm together. Mm-hmm. Like, she's being very diplomatic. And so she's going with the lesser of two evils. But I also think that at some point, we're going to see them plotting in the future. I do. I have a hunch. I have a feeling. Because this is Game of Thrones. That's what they do. You're like, oh, we won a victory. And then the person you were fighting with, they stab you in your back. The show's awesome, bro. The show's awesome.
All right, and then we see where, Queen Rhaenyra now. Should we call her queen at this point? I mean, technically, her dad is dead. She's the queen.
Well, yeah, she's been given the crown. She's the queen.
So I mean, Rhaenyra then, has this difficult conversation with her boys, and she sends them off, and it just shows again how mature her boys are in comparison to the king that they're trying to claim. Who's trying to claim the throne.
Yes. And like you could tell like her whole house, like she listened to her father, like she still has. And even when Damon grabbed her, and he was like, "Yo, you got your father in you," and it's like, because that's how she was raised. She's raised with that diplomacy, right? And it's like she was groomed for this to be the queen, whereas Aegon, he wasn't groomed for it. He doesn't want it, or he kept saying he didn't want it, and he's just being forced into this. And so we're gonna see it. He's gonna be, in Kingsmark or whatever, and King's Landing, and he's just gonna be a horrible guy.
Horrible leader.
That power is going to get to his head. Yeah, there is no diplomacy with him. However, there is diplomacy with Allison too, which we'll see that. We'll see that. I don't know if this is a scene where.
Which, I mean, we also have to think about her upbringing because with Rhaenyra, like, she was the king's daughter, so her education was different than her best friend. So of course Rhaenyra was in a better position to raise her boys in that same royal kind of way versus Allison, who she was just the best friend, and now she's trying to raise boys to be in a position that she knows nothing about.
I don't think so. I think it's just animosity. Like, you could see, like, Rhaenyra's been at Dragonstone this whole time, right? Or Dragon, whatever the place is, right? So she's cut off from all the stuff that they have at King's Landing. So she could have had the better teachers, the better maesters, all those better things over at King's Landing. I think that she was just so filled with that manipulation from Otto and that hatred and animosity that she's just been toxic. She's a toxic person, and she's feeding that toxicness to her children. And honestly, I have to say, she's a bad mom because she's not reining in, like, yo, stop doing that. Like, when her son's out here, whoring all over the place, she's not like, yo, stop doing
his
that.
ass.
Yeah, exactly.
She was paying off. She was paying off the girls, the servants. She was, giving them the tea, making sure that, he had less illegitimate kids out there.
Mind you, that one scene that you're talking about, he raped her.
Yeah,
he raped her, and she was like, "Oh, here's some coins. Go away.
Some tea and some coins.
Pay off my son's problems." Yep. Yeah. So it's clear night and day that she's definitely taking the time to raise her kids, proper. And we see that. We definitely see this in this next episode. Oh yeah, so then Coral's Valyrian. He ends up showing back up, which I don't even know how he showed back up, but you know what, timing, whatever.
He doesn't either. He just kind of wakes up and he's like
back home.
His wife is there. He's in a good place.
Yeah, but he finds out his brother was killed, and he was killed by Daemon. So we know that's gonna play out in the future somehow, right? There's gonna be answers to pay for that, right? And then what else we see? We see, so they have the conversation, and it was like, oh yeah, your brother was a little hot-headed. He was questioning who should take over. He called him a bastard, blah blah blah. And by the way, this is what's going on. So he's caught up to speed.
Looking like Frodo and Sam standing on that cliffside there.
You must take the rings and go to the mountain and get rid of the rings. That does kind of look like Lord of the Rings. That also looks like, what's her name? The Lady of the Water, right? She looks like the Lady of the Water. But so Coral was brought up to speed, and Princess Rainey was like, listen, Rhaenyra's the only one that's been very tactful, very diplomatic. She's trying to keep this realm together. I think we should side with her. And so sure enough, they side with her. Mind you, Damon's like, let's go to war. Let's pop off. Let's get it popping. We got dragons. Did you like that table, though, when they lit the fire and the table was like all lit up with the whole realm? I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome.
And they're all moving the parts around the table.
But you know what? Rhaenyra makes a good statement there. And it's a little bit of foreshadowing because she tells Daemon, she's like, listen, our dragons have never been to war. And in that way, she's telling us, like, hey, like, our dragons aren't ready. Not that they're ready for it, but we don't know if we have those kind of dragons, to be honest. And then we see that later in the episode when Aemon loses control of his dragon.
Well, that whole scene, I mean, take it a few steps back. When I actually saw the size of his dragon, I was like, oh, shit.
I knew exactly who it was.
Yo,
I
yeah,
was
that
like,
too.
oh
That
shit.
too. But like when they were saying like, listen, we got more dragons, right? They may have the houses and they may have the loyalty of the houses and they may have the armies, but we have more dragons. And I was like, yeah, that's true. So I was like, yo, I was with, Team Black. They have the sides, they have the numbers, they have the dragons, right? They're gonna win because let a dragon come in, and then Renero was like, well, what's the saying? If when dragons fight, everybody burns, right?
Everyone burns. Yep.
Which is true because we saw that at the end of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Dragons are just going to burn everything down. They don't care. So it should be the last resort, right? But in the same sense, I was like, yo, they do have the upper hand because they have more dragons, right?
Right.
However, when we saw that scene when he landed with his little dragon
Yep.
and he gets off and you see in the background Godzilla, I was like, oh shit, they don't have the upper hand. I was like, oh shit.
I mean, that one dragon alone can take out, half of their
all
dragons.
their dragons. Yeah. And Damon knows this. And this is why that one scene in this episode where Damon's singing to that one dragon, he's trying to tame the wildest dragon.
Yeah, and I want to say he was trying to tame that dragon earlier in the season too.
Yes. And he's also, there's like another, I don't know which episode it was, but there was a scene where Damon goes and he starts digging for the eggs and he finds the eggs and like he's so fucking happy. He's like, oh, I got more eggs. So like Damon's been really like building up, like, getting all these dragon eggs and getting the army of dragons. Yeah. But my God, the dragon was this dragon was massive.
Yeah.
Like that one scene when the dragon flew and then the bigger dragon came over. Oh my God.
It's like above him.
Yep.
I mean, really, this entire scene was just, it was tense, Like,
all right, you skipped a lot. Let's go back. Let's go back to the point where he lands at the, so she tells him, go back to the Lord of the Rings scene. We skipped all that.
I had that up here.
so
this is where you want to be, right here. We're Frodo and Sam.
Yes. And once again, Rhaenyra being very diplomatic, she's like, listen, you guys got to go see if the houses are still loyal to us. So the oldest one is going to go fly to House Stark, right? And House Tully.
Yeah.
So those are the two names we know from the Game of Thrones. Shout out Game of Thrones, right? So Tully was Jon Snow's friend, right? And of course we know the Starks, right? So we're gonna go fly. I have a feeling theories for season 2, I think the Starks are gonna be aligned because the Stark seems like they're about their word.
They're old school, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like and she said we have the Starks, we have the North. So I do think that we're gonna have the North in this, on team Rhaenyra. But then she was like, she sends Luke, the youngest right here, the little guy. And she was like, listen, you're gonna fly right down the street. It's House Baratheon. Your grandmother was a Baratheon. So, it's a quick flight. You're gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. She's like reasserting him. And I feel bad for them because like Rhaenyra was like, being diplomatic. She was like, promise me you're just going as messengers, not as fighters.
Yes.
And like when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's honorable, but you're leaving them, you're leaving them vulnerable.
Right.
In this very tense time. And so, they swear, they make their promise, they make their oaths, and of course, being honorable boys, they're gonna keep their promise. So yeah, there's the scene where Damon's trying to get so we got Luke now. Luke shows up at House Baratheon, right? He gets onto the grounds. He his dragon. We see Godzilla. Yeah, we see Godzilla in the background. And then, the guards are like, why are you here? He's like, I got a message for, the Lord. And they're like, right in. And of course, we see, who do we see? We see Aemon, right? Aemon made it there first.
Yep.
And he's like, look, you swore to my grandfather that, you were going to be aligned with my mother. And he's like, yeah, but you know what? Your uncle already came here and he promised to marry one of my daughters. So which one of my daughters are you going to marry if I align with you? And he's like, "Oh, I'm
I'm already
I'm
promised.
already promised to somebody." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's like, "Well, then there's nothing else to do." And then as he's about to leave, Eamon's like, "No, wait up! You owe me an eye."
Yeah, and you know
This
what?
dude waited for that, man.
Luke still tries. He's like, that's when he reaffirms, like, hey, I came as a messenger, not as a warrior.
Right.
And
And he was
we
like,
see,
"No."
like this dude, the lord of this
Mhm.
house, and he's like, hey, like, not in my house. He
Yeah.
came as a messenger, not
Take
here.
that shit outside.
Yeah. And sure enough, they do. And that's when we have this whole scene of, Luke on his dragon. He's trying, to
Calm his
outwit the other
dragon
dragon,
down.
to really get
Yep,
away.
calm his dragon down. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Listen, calm down, calm down.
Yeah.
Just bear with me. It's a short fly home. Let's go."
Mm-hmm.
And then, sure enough, we see the dragon flying. The storm's hitting it hard,
Mm-hmm.
and his dragon's quick,
And
but
he
it's not
almost
quick
gets
in the
away.
storm.
He almost gets away. There's a point where he's kind of like lost in the storm, and that's when he loses control of his dragon. Luke loses control of his dragon first.
Yes, and that's this. I'm glad that HBO showed this, and I'm glad because there's a scene where King Valerius said, we don't really control the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And he put that out there. He said that earlier in the season. He was like, "We don't really control the dragons," and so we kind of see that clear as day. Whereas the Luke's dragon felt threatened, so he attacks, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's a bigger creature, he's like, "No, what are you doing?"
That
He
animal
attacks him.
instinct kicks in. He's like,
That
yo, I
animal
gotta
instinct, yeah.
do something for
I'm
myself.
caged. I'm trapped.
Mhm.
I'm gonna attack. So he goes and he blows fire in the face of that of
the monster.
Eamon's dragon, yeah. Godzilla. I'm just gonna call it Godzilla.
And still, we have this scene where it seems like, oh, okay, like he evaded him. He got away.
Yeah, and then he goes through the
the
canyons.
storm.
He goes into the canyons, and he's like too big to follow. And I was like, "Oh my god, you could just land down there and just kind of hide it out until he like tires out and leaves."
Yep.
And no, he flies through and comes out.
So he rises above the clouds. He sees the sun. We kind of have like that hopeful moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then right there.
Oh my
That's
god!
what happens.
And you think he survived that?
The carnage. Look, he's all right. So if you look closely, this is a dragon here. And I think he would have been. Oh, shit. No, he's probably right in the mouth. I think you're right. He got eaten.
I thought so too. And I
right
have
there.
to go look him up online. And Wikipedia confirmed that in the books he's dead. He's gone. Ooh. So I think the reason why they did that is because they gotta fuel the fire for
for this war.
Yeah. Because once again, this up to this moment, Rhaenyra was very peaceful, very diplomatic. We didn't go over the one scene where Otto comes to Dragon's Keep, right? He comes to Dragon's Keep, and he's like, "Hey, these are the terms," and we see Rhaenyra kind of like. She sees the terms. She's like, "Wow, these are not bad terms." She's like, "Maybe I should just let him be king."
Right. And she's like, "Hey, like this is the reason why I was chosen as the next heir was because I was supposed to keep this prophecy, keep the peace that's going." We know that that this dance of fire and ice is what's ultimately going to take down their house.
Yeah, exactly. Because like he said, like when dragons fight, everybody burns.
Yeah.
So yeah. So he gets chomped, and we see the very last scene is, and at this moment right here, he's like, "Oh fuck!" Like that face. Look at that face.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh like I don't think he was. I think he was just messing with him.
He was.
Like, he just wanted to mess with him. He really didn't want.
He also loses control of his dragon.
Yeah. And I feel like we're gonna see that more throughout the conflicts and stuff like that. And like more and more, like we're gonna see more and more like just these accidents happening as this war goes on. But it's crazy because like you can see his face, like he didn't mean to kill him.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh shit." Like now he knows, like when he gets back, like all hell's gonna break loose. So here comes the news. Yep. body parts of your son's dragon showed up on shore.
Yep.
And then we see like this is it. She's like, you know what? Game over. I'm tired. It's time to play the game. I'm tired of being nice. I'm tired of being diplomatic. It's game time.
Hmm.
Damn.
So, what do
Damn.
we think is going to
Gonna
be
happen in season 2.
Rhaenyra's, next move? What's
Well,
she
once
gonna
again, we
do?
got to see we got to see what's gonna happen with her older son
Right, with the
when he
Starks
goes to the
and House
Starks and all
Tully.
that house. Yep,
Hmm.
yep. House Stark in the north. So hopefully, she has at least the north. We know that she has the ships from Driftmark, which that
Hmm.
was a good strategy. They were like, if we cut off, the water, they can't get no supplies. We're gonna starve them out. Which that's a great
Yeah.
strategy. And Princess Rainey was like, "I'll help." So she was like, "I'm gonna fly over, fly over the water, make sure the ships are all okay and everything." So 3 hour show. Thanks, guys. Thank you, folks, for still watching us.
Right.
Guys, if you got to cut out at any time, go ahead. We're in the middle of this conversation. I've been dying for this.
Ray is saying the conversation is not over. Clearly.
Yeah, no, I got more. Listen. We got to talk about season 2 now. What's our guess for season 2? Yeah,
Well,
so we got. It's gonna get good. I hope. I
yes,
hope. I
it
hope.
is.
Listen, HBO, throw some money to this show because I want to see the dragons dancing. That's it. Let's go. Let's go,
Mhm.
man.
So I wonder, because in Game of Thrones we kind of saw the whole, um, the ice, the Ice King, and we saw like these, what the hell were they? The undead. What were
Yes.
they referred to as? I guess the undead, the Night
Yeah,
Walkers.
the
So we
Night
saw
Walkers.
we
Yeah.
saw the Night Walkers, but when we were introduced to them, there was already a huge army.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see how they're gonna, in telling the prophecy as the dance of fire and ice. It'll be interesting to see how they incorporate the beginning stories, the origins of the Ice King, and that.
I'm glad you said that because there's people that are bringing into attention that Eamon, the
Mhm.
guy with the one eye, looks
Yeah.
kind of like just like the leader of those guys, the Night Walkers.
Shit.
He kind of
Okay.
has the same similar face structure. So I was
Hmm.
like,
Oh man, this show is so good.
This is why we're talking 3 hours. It didn't even feel like 3 hours. I looked up, I
Oh
was like, holy shit,
man,
2.5 hours talking about Game of Thrones. I
I
was
tell you
waiting for
what
this.
though,
This is what I wanted to do.
my last 2 days have been nothing but hot D.
Mm-hmm.
I saw like the first six
I
episodes
like how you said it
yesterday.
like that. Cut
I
that.
saw like the last 4 episodes today, and then I went back and I saw like the recaps of each episode because I have
Mm-hmm.
the HBO
Oh yeah, where they
app
go on the
now,
talk
so I had
behind the
like all
scenes
like
and
the
all
back
that.
scenes, like the cuts and everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
now we just did a 3 hour show. Like I am fully vested in this show, in this series.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Season 2, like there's gonna be some kind of retribution for what happened to Luke, right? So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Once again, I want to see how the houses are all gonna align.
Hmm.
And like you said, from episode 9, how they just started playing the game. I just want to see the game. Let's just play
Hmm.
it. How each one will try to fight for the throne and keep the
Yeah.
throne.
And you know
Now, how
what?
long?
This entire season, we had so many deaths.
Mhm.
So like that shows us like they're not scared of just killing people
But
off. So
that's how Game of Thrones always been. They've never
yeah,
been scared to kill people off,
yeah.
and then
So
they'll
let's
introduce
see,
new
man.
cast, and
It's
they
definitely
kill
gonna
them off,
be
and they'll
it's
introduce
definitely
more.
gonna be a roller coaster where we're losing people we love, and
Hmm.
we're getting like new perspectives on some of the characters, and they're gonna continue to develop the characters.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, I'm curious to see how it all plays out, and I wonder how many seasons they're gonna go.
Hmm.
Like how much gas they have, because this is based off of like a prequel book. I think it was one book. I think it was called was it Song of Fire and Blood or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see like how are they going to incorporate all of it. Like how many seasons do you think they'll go with it?
I have no idea. They're gonna milk it as long as they can. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's when it starts to go down the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And like once again, like as much as I shit on the writers of Game of Thrones, I I I gotta give them a little bit of wiggle room because it was like they ran out of the books, right?
Yeah,
Ran
they
out of the
ran out
core
of content.
material, so they were just like, So they were really good at adapting other people's material. They just weren't good at creating their own material.
Mm-hmm.
And but I kick them in the butt for the fact that they didn't go to HBO and be like, listen, we're struggling, we need help,
Mm-hmm.
and gotten more writers to come in and say, okay, uh, let's brainstorm this out.
Right.
Like they got too cocky and they were like, oh yeah, we got this, and that oh my god, that's season 8. God, that's season 8.
Oh man.
But you know what? They're trying to amend it. Hopefully, this Jon Snow show will be good, and we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited, but they're saying we gotta wait another 2 years.
I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be out, this time next year. They start production, I think, in January.
Okay.
So I think we'll definitely have a couple episodes at the end of next year.
Okay. All right.
It's
Hopefully
just
they'll
like
do.
that
Maybe they'll do.
typical 1 year. It'll be
Would you,
fine.
would you want them to do the thing where like how Walking Dead we used to do, where they would like show like 6 episodes and then they take a
Like
break?
half a season? I hate
Yeah.
that shit. But also I love it because you are getting a little bit more.
You get a content, but then you gotta wait.
They're feeding you crumbs. Like, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's good.
I don't
That's
know.
rough.
I really like waiting until the end of the season and binge watching. I
Hmm.
don't like that weekly BS, but
I didn't listen. Binge watching is dope, but it's hard. It's rough. Like you went 10 episodes without hearing no spoilers.
no spoilers.
That's rough, man.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you're not on the internet like that though. That is just like in her
Well,
own little
no. So,
world.
all right. So you said something about I think it was Fuzz who was it drunk? Somebody, I guess, like dropped the spoiler last episode, and
Yeah.
I missed it. So, do you want to like bring that spoiler back up? What the hell was it that they said? I know it was
Oh, he
like
was just talking. He
R.I.P.
was just talking.
somebody.
Yeah, he was talking about Luke at the end of episode 10.
I'm glad
Yeah,
I
at
didn't
episode 10.
understand that
Yeah,
spoiler.
yeah.
Okay.
That's how I was just trying to go through it because you didn't recognize the name,
Oh
you didn't know.
man.
So Luke was like, Junk was like, oh, she didn't watch it, my bad. But I was like, she doesn't even know. She ain't paying attention. But no, he was like, rest in peace, Luke.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't watch this show. No,
What?
Fuzz, you don't watch it? And you watched up for 3 hours? We just ruined the show for you. We summarized it.
I think it was a great introduction to the show. Now you need to go watch the show.
Yes, you're doing yourself a disservice. You got to go watch the show. Yeah. So I'm bummed. I'm like, what other show? Like I'm missing that. I need to find a really good show to fill that void that I have right now.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm like, man, what do I watch? It's just so well written. You never seen God either? Oh yeah, you got. Well, at least watch the first 6 seasons.
Nah, forget that. Skip over it. Just watch this series.
Yeah, but what happens when he watches it and he's like done in 10 episodes and he's
Confused.
hungry?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, after you watch this first season, then you could go back and get into Game of Thrones while you're waiting for the next season of the House of Dragon.
The good thing about House of the Dragon is that, excuse me, it stands alone by itself, so you can watch these in 10 episodes and be fine.
But also, if you go back and watch Game of Thrones, then a lot of things are going to make sense too.
Does it really though?
There's a lot of things that we realized because we're Game of Thrones fans. Like
what?
I can't think of anything right now at the moment, but stuff.
The only thing that House of Dragon had was it kept making reference to the Song of Ice and Fire, the freaking damn dagger that ended up in just a freaking. They didn't go nowhere in Game of Thrones, but they keep like. Like remember, and it's like wow,
A lot of the
remember? It
characters.
didn't end nowhere.
a lot of the characters kept reminding me of characters from Game of Thrones. Like, Damon's wife, even though only you'll see her for like that short period of time, she gives me the vibes of, damn, what the hell was the daughter's name that, Reek's sister? What the hell was Reek's sister's name? Do you remember Reek?
Oh, the one that was that she was trying to take. She was like, "Oh, our father," and she was like, she had the ships and she was controlling all that.
Yeah,
she was like the pirate. Yeah,
so I saw the similarities between them. Maybe it was just personality wise. There was a couple other characters who just kept reminding me of characters from Game of Thrones.
You know, it's all written by the same guy, so of course it's going to be similar rehashing of like, you know, characters and mannerisms. He's gonna watch She-Hulk. Fuzz. I know you're joking, but don't watch that show. Don't watch that show, Fuzz. Listen, I don't even know why Lynn watched it. I never told her to go watch that show. I said, go watch.
You spoke about it so often that I was like, oh, it's got to be the show.
Are you actually going to go back and finish the whole season?
I don't intend to.
You should.
Maybe someday when I'm bored.
Listen, the episodes are only 20, 30 minutes. Go finish the damn thing. It gets worse. Trust me, it gets worse.
Or not.
It gets worse. It's bad. That's a bad show. Are you glad? Like, do you see the night and day between that show and this show?
Oh, man. I don't remember at what point it was, but at one point I was like, well, god damn, I finally made it to the steakhouse. I was like, oh, this is so good. This is so good.
You finally turned over your card for green. It was like,
yep,
steak.
Finally.
Bring the beef. Bring the chicken. Bring the ribs. Bring it all. I'm ready to eat. Like this damn cheeseburger. Why am I eating a freaking doo-doo freaking Big Mac? Oh man.
Yeah.
Man,
so maybe I'll go back and finish my Big Mac as like a midnight snack.
No, you know what? No, it's not even a Big Mac. No, it has to be like gas station food.
Gas station food? That's even worse.
That's what She-Hulk is. Yo, seriously? It's those little, what's those things that's on the thing?
The hot dogs?
No, the tecates that nobody ever eats. That's what it is.
Oh my! Oh, the taquitos that have like the meat stuffed in it.
Yeah, one of those things.
Oh my god, they just look dry as hell.
Yeah. That's She-Hulk.
It's like pizza that like is sitting in like the warmer that like spins around.
That's been there for a hot 2 days.
All right, guys. Well, that concludes our special episode.
3-hour show for hot
show of House of the Dragon.
If you haven't watched it,
thank you so much for tuning
my bad.
I'm exhausted. I'm ready to go to sleep. It's not even bedtime yet.
Listen, if you haven't watched the show, go watch it. Radiation boneless wings.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
guys, I don't know
that's She-Hulk.
Snacks will lead me to finishing She-Hulk.
No, like She-Hulk is like, I don't even want to say like. Let me try to think. What's like some really bad gas station food? That's the only thing I think of. Because there's some diners that are good. So I can't even blame diners. I can't even say like Wally World's food because some of the stuff is okay. It's edible.
Actually, Walmart food isn't bad. I've had like their hot food off their plate, and that's not bad at all.
Exactly, it's edible.
They have like potato wedges,
no, She-Hulk is just She-Hulk is just something bad. It's just like, you know what it is? It's like finding leftovers in your fridge 2 weeks later.
Ooh,
and
you don't want
to eat it.
Oh man, you gotta be desperate for that. 2 weeks?
Yeah, you were desperate to watch She-Hulk. You must have been. Thank you guys.